Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. That it, with your 2026 WWE Backlash Ultimate Preview. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, and we are here to break down everything that happened inside and outside of the ring this week in WWE before providing you, as mentioned, with that ultimate preview for the company's next premium live event, WWE Backlash, airing this Saturday in Tampa, Florida. Unfortunately, Silver King will not be able to attend. I have a prior engagement that is keeping me from making the 2.5, 3-hour drive out west, and I'm of a mixed mind, which we will get into a little bit later in the show, because there are some matches from this card I badly want to see in person, and others where, yeah, I don't really feel like they're premium live event quality. But we have plenty of time to discuss that. Let's kick off this edition of Getting Over by reminding you about this, and that is that this program
is all about Defy.
So please, folks,
stop being marks for yourselves and go back to being a mark for me.
Go back to being marks for the Silver King Adam Silverstein, Vintage Chris Vanini, and the Getting Over Wrestling podcast in its entirety. Head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. And we actually have a number of reviews to mention real quick. First, from Apple Podcasts, Danhausen, Very Evil, Very Nice is the username. The title of his review is Very Nice, Very Evil, 5 stars. Not bad. Okay, thank you so much. I will take that compliment. And if you happen to be Danhausen, please don't curse the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. We would greatly appreciate that. We also received a ton of super nice comments and attempted 5-star reviews left for us on Spotify over the last 2+ weeks. So some shout outs to Farm Man Laron D, who said, my quote, attendance starts at conception line during WrestleMania. He said it's an all-timer on the podcast. Booker B for saying we always have deep and fun conversations. Tom P, who said we're the only wrestling podcast he looks forward to listening to each week. And Zachariah L, who said he wouldn't be surprised if WWE Creative listens to the show, considering how much we get right and how much they do that we say. Also, congrats to TC Casa, longtime listener, who just had a baby boy with his wife and said we have been helping him during his hour-long drives back and forth, presumably between his home and hospital. We have certainly put out enough performance-enhancing audio over the last few weeks to help him with that. So to everyone that I just mentioned who left 5-star reviews or comments on Spotify, who hit those 5-star buttons, we acknowledge you.
Acknowledge.
Big acknowledgement right there.
Acknowledge.
On this episode, Vintage, I've tried to involve some more listener comments and feedback when possible, because we've lacked in that area a little bit coming out of WrestleMania. I mentioned that last week. But I did get a message that you are going to want to hear from Luke Mirza, Lex Luker 88 on Twitter, who said in reference to our conversation about some movie I had dissed you for not seeing, maybe it was one of the diehards, potentially, or rounders or something. He said, quote, pointing out a man's lack of movie knowledge while never watching Star Wars is insane, but I digress. And I bring this up for 2 separate reasons. First, because I don't mind anyone shading me, even though, let's not forget,
This is my show. My show.
but also, Luke, ironic, it's a failed comparison. I've never seen Star Wars. No. That is a singular franchise, and it is so embedded in pop culture. I understand the references. Luke, I am your father. C-3PO, R2-D2, Wookiees, Princess Leia with the cinnamon bun hairdo, the sword things, lightsabers, stormtroopers. I have
the sword things. Oh my!
I said lightsabers. I got it. Stormtroopers. I have an awareness of the film. I have an awareness of what it's about. I've heard quotes. It's part of pop culture. This is one singular franchise I don't watch. Vintage, your film gaps are extensive and surprising, spanning multiple films and multiple genres. So while I accept the shade, I'll take it. It was a good line, Luke. That's why I read it on the show. Feel free to throw it at Silver King. It does not stand up to scrutiny.
My only point would be that a lot of the movies I've explained I haven't seen was because I missed it at the time. I was too young or something, and then I'm not someone who often goes back and watches old movies. I'm just surprised you cannot like Star Wars. I'm surprised you haven't seen it, and that like when you were a kid, you didn't like come upon it. I feel like that's hard to do, to miss it as a kid.
But that's the thing. So it's not that I don't like it. I can't say I don't like it because I haven't seen it. I'm just not interested in it. So if I'm not interested in it.
No, I know. That's fair. I'm just surprised
that's what it is.
young Adam Silverstein in the 90s, didn't see it when it came back out again on VHS and all that stuff.
Well, let me ask you this. What year were you born?
89.
Okay. You were born in 1989, 12 years after episode 4 came out. I Googled that while we were talking, right? Episode 4 is the first one, technically, right?
Yes.
All right. So 12 years after it came out.
But in the mid 90s, they put them back in theaters.
They did.
And re-released them on VHS. And that's where I found it.
They did. That's fair. But Rounders came out in 1998. It's Matt Damon, Ed Norton. It's a male,
I was
comedy dramedy type of deal. But no, I understand that. But like, I don't know what year City Slickers came out, but I'm guessing it was around when I was 1 or 2 or 3 or something like that. And I've seen City Slickers 1 and City Slickers 2. I've seen Animal House. Have you seen Animal House?
Yes.
Okay, so
not in forever, but that's like a.
But you've seen it once.
Yes.
Have you seen Caddyshack?
Yes.
Okay, so my point is
comedies
being made.
Comedies are timeless, though, I think.
But Rounders is kind of like a dramedy to a degree. I mean, it's featuring really popular actors who you definitely, I would assume, but have definitely seen in other things. You've seen Fight Club, I assume.
Yeah, like in college.
Right. Okay. That's what I'm saying. Rounders is a like VHS DVD copy of a film that I would have expected you seeing in college. But I don't even think that was what led to this. Wasn't it like maybe Die Hard we were talking about? Die Hard 3?
It was Die Hard. I don't know if we've actually talked about Rounder. Maybe Rounder.
No, we've definitely mentioned it. And I've been surprised you haven't seen it, but that's less egregious. Way less egregious.
What's the other poker movie with Jon Favreau?
If you're referring to Swingers, it's not really a poker movie. They do go to Las Vegas. Have you seen Swingers?
Okay, I did see that one in college. With guys,
so this is a
but that was like that, but that is an older one, like 96.
Oh, yeah. Right, 2 years before Rounders. So this is in the vein. This is why I was surprised, because you're a guy who went to college, who I assume had similar, if not identical, experiences. I mean, certainly not identical, but similar. So that's why, if I hear you haven't seen a certain Die Hard or Rounders, that's why Silver can get so surprised when I bring up a movie and Vintage hasn't seen it. But if you told me singularly you have never seen any of the Die Hard films, but you knew every other reference we were making on the show, I would say, wow, that's a little weird. I would be surprised. I'm extremely surprised that you haven't seen that, but I get it. It's just one thing that you haven't seen. So look, that's where it stands. I wanted to bring up the comment. We've spent way more time on it than I expected, as we normally do here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Regardless, I wanted to make sure it was said. I wanted to have a little fun off the top of the show, because we're going to be hitting some really serious topics as the rest of this episode progresses. Before we get to the seriousness, also a reminder, make sure you follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send questions and comments like these into the program on YouTube. When you subscribe over there, you can listen to the show. You can watch full-length video interviews, and you can click the links in our profiles at Getting Overcast to join our Slack channel, to purchase stuff on WWE Shop, give us a little bit of a commission for it. Every reason in the world to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast. Vintage, we have the main event, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and your WWE Backlash Ultimate Preview, all coming up.
But I'm afraid I've got some bad news.
In a shocking development over the weekend, New Day, Kofi Kingston, and Xavier Woods departed WWE after refusing to renegotiate their contracts, aka take pay cuts. WWE granted them an outright release, and they have now less than 3 months until they can continue their careers with another organization, almost certainly AEW. There's a ton to discuss coming out of this. The baseline where I want to get into the conversation is remembering their success. What a ridiculous run for Kofi in particular. Nearly 20 years. He won the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 35 in an all-time moment and storyline. 7-time mid-card champion. 15-time tag team champion, plus an NXT tag title. Grand Slam and Triple Crown champion as a single. Triple Crown champion as a tag. Ridiculous resume, outstanding career. Woods got the King of the Ring he always wanted. Otherwise, didn't have singles accolades, which is a shame because he absolutely could have been pushed in that manner. And the King of the Ring win was really botched by creative. But He was a 12-time tag team champion with an NXT title as part of that Triple Crown for the tag. He is also who I would consider to be the de facto leader of New Day this entire time, carried the promo segments, kept everyone in their roles. WWE had not been using them well of late, which again is a creative failure. It's perfectly fine to start featuring younger talent, but there are so many ways in which New Day could have been utilized, yet they were left on the back burner. Most frustrating was, of course, the heel turn on Big E at the end of 2024, which was an all-time moment and an all-time fumble on the back end. Now, granted, the whole deal was probably flawed from the start. Without E returning to fight, it was dead in the water. There was no way to actually pay that storyline off. Still, they were getting mega heat. They could have been turned into dominant champions and then gone back babyface eventually. Instead, WWE basically dropped the ball, did nothing with them, and just kept them heel for the next 16 months. They recently signed new contracts, and then WWE comes back and says, hey, we're not using you as much and so on, so we want to pay you less money. And they said, shove it up your ass, give us our release, and WWE granted it. So I understand why they're gone. I don't really understand WWE asking them to take a pay cut, especially given their prominence in the company and their tenure as well. But none of that changes the incredible work that New Day did in WWE. Kofi Kingston in particular, just considering how long he was there and everything that he accomplished, but certainly Xavier Woods as well.
A lot to get into, starting with just the Kofi Xavier of it all. One other accolade for Kofi that I saw in a graphic. Mm-hmm. He has held a tag team championship more than anybody in WWE history.
Yes.
1,454 days, about 100 more than the Usos, who may eventually overtake him. Mm-hmm. I'm more surprised. They are a top 5 group. I don't know if you want to call them tag team or not, but they are a top 5 group in WWE history.
Oh, they're
I think you have to
better
say.
than that. I mean, they're a top 3 group in WWE history. They're a top 5 team in WWE.
We on this show delineating between faction and group and tag team, it's depends on the numbers. Mm-hmm. But they are right up there. However you want to count it, DX, NWO, 4 Horsemen. They're right in that.
Well, you're combining. Don't forget, you're combining like NWA and WCW there. If it's just WWE, that's why I'm saying they're like top 3. Like you have DX, Evolution, and them. I mean,
and if you want to count, and if you want to count them as just a tag team, top 3, top 5,
top
for sure.
2 or 3, top 2 or 3, I would say.
And if you are newer to WWE over the last handful of years and you didn't see much New Day, I would recommend you go back and watch a lot of it. So many classic matches with the Usos, Big E's title moment, Kofi Mania, mm-hmm. Even the original New Day. Remember, they were a heel group, and they became New Day Sucks, then it became New Day Rocks. They made a cereal out of it, the merch, the trombone,
pancakes.
Everything. Like they were an era in WWE, and will always be remembered as such. Hall of Famers. Kofi maybe 2-time individually and as a group. That will come down the road. Mm-hmm. Absolutely give them their flowers. I am surprised it happened the way it did, in that they have not done anything for a year. Like they were at WrestleMania 41. I think they won the titles, if I recall correctly.
Did they beat the Viking Raiders, or
they beat the Viking Raiders.
The War Raiders, excuse me.
Whatever they're called now. And then just eventually lost the titles and just hadn't done it. Even when they won the titles, it was like they weren't doing that much.
No.
So I'm not surprised at the idea of, hey, we're not using the New Day. We don't seem to have plans for them or tag team wrestling, which we'll get into. So let them go. But for it to be 50% pay cut for that to come out.
Well, we don't know what percentage it was. Let's just be clear.
Whatever it was.
I know, I'm just saying,
sure.
But it could have been 10%.
Yes.
And 10%, any pay cut is insulting, in my opinion, when you sign a contract, so on.
Well, yes.
But there is a huge difference between 10% and 50%. We don't know what the number was. Please go.
Yes. Yeah. And it makes WWE look bad for,
of course,
several reasons. Among them, executive pay has skyrocketed.
Mm-hmm.
Now executive pay is tied to how the company does many times, and that has gone well versus a team that's not on television very much, whatever. But this tells you like WWE regrets giving them the deal that they did on the front end.
Right.
And so that's where these negotiations start to get very weird down the road of like, we already talked about, does a contract really matter? You know, they can end it whenever. You get a 90-day, you know, payout / non-compete, whatever people want to call it. To then set this kind of precedent, I think is another like step toward how the wrestlers are being treated and compensated and paid. That is part of a larger conversation that I don't know if we need to get into now. Mm-hmm. But New Day itself, unfortunate the way it ended. I absolutely think they need a fresh start. We've thought they've needed a fresh start for a while. The heel turn was not it. I was worried from the moment it happened. Do you have a plan? And it felt like they never really had a plan. To be this long in WWE straight is very rare. Mm-hmm. It's good to have TNA and AEW bounce between the companies if you want. Find your character, get some more momentum behind you, and I think they can do that.
It's also frustrating how it happens so unceremoniously. Like, for, you know, Kofi to be there 19 plus years, Xavier Woods 14, I'm talking about main roster specifically. And for their runs to end, I'm not saying you need to do a loser leaves town and completely write them out of the company. But like, Edge got a send off to a degree. Dean Ambrose, John Moxley got a send off. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, I just thought I lost everything.
Oh, no.
So weird. Oh. Ricochet got straight written off recently. And it's like, we can't have a moment where we celebrate them and get that opportunity and then they depart after all of this time. Now, I understand it was probably sudden and not, you know, within booking plans and so on. And how do you do that? Like, do you have Jacob Fatu just destroy them and that's how New Day gets written? Is that it? Is that any better than them just not showing up again? I don't have the answer to that, but it just feels like there's an emptiness there. It's not resolved. There's no resolution to it. And while I imagine New Day will return to WWE one day, they'll do a final contract with a retirement run and eventual Hall of Fame induction, probably one more run as champions, Big E by their side, I would guess. I'm just speculating. It's almost certain that despite that happening in the future, they're heading to AEW now. It was unsurprising how clear that was literally minutes after the release announcement, which goes back to us rolling our eyes at the notion from the AEW side that WWE, quote unquote, contract tampering occurs while it does not for them. We saw it with Tony Storm and Jeff Hardy literally walking out of the job. Tommaso Ciampa immediately debuting. The recent deal with Andrade. There are so many other examples. These guys knew perfectly well when they turned down the pay cut that there were AEW jobs waiting on them, probably paying them what WWE was, or maybe even more. And as Chris always points out, there is really no such thing at all as contract tampering in this case. But my point, my larger point, is that you cannot claim to not do something, admonish your competitor for doing it, and then blatantly do it, whatever you want to call it, over and over and over again. So I have no expectation.
I agree. That's not really the point of this conversation.
No, it's a point
I do think
I wanted to make.
So did you ever watch, you never really watched Being the Elite, right?
No, I saw probably 2 years worth of it. But
okay. Do you remember they did the episode, I think in 2019 with the New Day when they're at E3,
yes,
the gaming convention. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the most viewed ones they've ever had. I remember when it happened, I couldn't believe that it happened. And they're playing Street Fighter essentially, which is kind of funny now that Cody and Roman are in the movie. But they play each other in Street Fighter and they talk about having a feud one day. And you know, it was as leaning into fantasy booking as someone possibly can, knowing it cannot happen with these people in two different companies. And that video just popped up onto my YouTube algorithm feed
of course,
shortly after the news came out. And I imagine lots of people are going back to looking at it. The idea of New Day versus the Young Bucks, the Elite, whatever, 2, 3s, you know, obviously not going to include Big E. That's fun. That's exciting. It's something we thought we would never get. And, you know, if we get that, I'm excited for it. That's one of those dream matches. It's two teams past their prime, but one we never thought would happen.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to get it. And what was cool about that, just you referencing being the Elite, was WWE allowed it, which was rare.
Yeah.
And then WWE actually wrote on their website, the New Day were at this gaming convention where they played Street Fighter with Kenny Omega and Matt Jackson and Nick Jackson. It was very weird. It was an odd time that it happened. And everyone always thought too, it was like, oh, that'll never happen because why would New Day ever leave WWE? And they weren't going to. They just re-signed them recently. And then this happened. So it's another own goal. It's WWE handing a major feud over to AEW at a time too, by the way, before All In. Now, my belief has been that All In would be a triple threat between the Young Bucks, FTR, Cope, and Cage. But if they're about to get Motor City Machine Guns and New Day, that could be a 5-way. They could both debut on that show. There's a lot that can happen. AEW is going to make the most of this opportunity.
All respect to Motor City Machine Guns. I don't want them in that match.
I don't either,
Like,
but
I
other people do.
I know they're an all-time, indie team essentially in TNA too. But Edge and Christian, Young Bucks, New Day, and to an extent FTR.
Yeah, lesser
like
FTR.
Four of the greatest tag teams of all time. Definitely 3. And I'd like to keep it at that. Now, I do, of course, want to. If you bring, we're not going to go too far down this road, but you bring in New Day, you want to do the Young Bucks New Day thing at some point. Cool. Do you have anything after that? I don't know.
Well, that's the thing.
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah.
They've got Edge and Christian doing this thing. They've done Hardys versus Bucks in AEW. They've done FTR Bucks a million times at this point.
Yep.
But look, it's tag team wrestling, and at least somebody appears to want to try to improve it.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, we're going to talk about that at the very end of this segment before we move on. But the other part of this conversation is TKO feeling ballsy enough to even ask people on contracts to take pay cuts of any percentage, and what that may say going forward about the retention of WWE talent. In this case, I'm sure it was due to New Day's lack of usage compared to what they were getting paid, but that obviously never would have happened in the old days. Like Vince McMahon would keep veterans, on 7-figure contracts, both to prevent them from going to the competition, and sometimes it's just a thank you for their long-term service. Look at guys like Dolph Ziggler and how long he stayed there because WWE just kept paying him. That's not happening anymore, not in 2026. And let me be clear, this is not a remember the good old days under Vince point. I'm just reminding people of how he operated. This is the same guy who hoarded talent for years and fired 100 superstars at the height of the pandemic. And let's make something else clear. The current situation with TKO, it is 100% Vince's doing. He made the deal to cash out and not pass down control of this company to his family, as everyone always expected. He's the one who had to do that, he felt, because he's involved in lawsuits over that decision and everything that happened with Janelle Grant. TKO is TKO. It is going to operate as a massive corporation, putting profit and greed above product, at least compared to the way WWE used to operate when those margins were not together, but they were closer. But Vince is the reason that TKO owns WWE singularly. And it's going to be interesting to see how often these pay cut requests happen, which talent follows suit, and how it all affects WWE long term. They just called up a huge swath of cheaper, mostly younger talent, all of whom have legitimate star potential. If you look around NXT right now, outside of a couple individuals, WWE is at least 2 years away from doing something like this again, maybe longer. The talent in NXT right now is not what it was when those 11 people were there running the brand. And you're noticing it based on the quality of TV, and the ratings are going down too because people are less interested. When you combine that with AEW buying up every other available talent, they raided the TNA roster. They've taken huge swaths of people from New Japan. There's a lacking marketplace for younger, cheaper free agent talent, more so than there ever has been before. These 2026 departures feel far more significant than the lot we got a year ago. Now, maybe it's a cause effect of what I just explained with the NXT talent getting called up. Maybe this is a one-off, and next year we're back to 2025 level cuts where there's like 4 to 6 people from the main roster that go and, they clear out developmental again. But I don't believe this is something that WWE, let me clarify when I'm saying it, I don't believe they could survive this every year. I don't believe they could cut more than a dozen legitimate main roster talents and call up that equivalent from NXT every single year and keep the product going to the way it is right now.
No, but remember, of all the people who were let go a couple of weeks ago, only one of them was like really doing something.
Kairi Sane.
Kairi Sane.
Yeah.
And what else has changed dramatically with WWE post-COVID, post-TKO? They're not doing house shows nearly as much anymore. There's simply just less wrestling time. They don't need as many bodies for people who maybe aren't on TV much, but they're on all the house shows. And so as a result of having less time and soon to be going back to 2-hour SmackDowns, you just don't need as many wrestlers. And you can disagree with that business decision. Cody Rhodes talks all the time about how he wants house shows to be back. But based on the business plan, it makes sense. There are many things to be upset with TKO about. We talk about them on the show. We're talking about them now. That doesn't mean everything is bad or everything is nonsensical. And if they're just going to do less wrestling, shorter pay-per-views, Raw used to be 3 hours. Now it's 2.5.
Barely.
Like that.
Less.
Yeah. So like that's just the reality. And I don't like that. But if you're going to do that, it makes sense to then follow through on the cuts. And again, this is much, much better than it was 2018 and prior when you didn't have an AEW and places to go. Remember, like back in the old days, people would bounce between companies all the time. And they'd find stuff that works. They'd get momentum. Somebody would want them back. There's competition and a bidding war between wrestlers. That's good. And yes, there have been cuts. And yes, asking for 50% pay cuts is terrible.
If true.
It's a terrible precedent. Yeah, it's a terrible precedent to set if it is being set. The top of the card, people are also making, more than they ever have. And that's something CM Punk has talked about. Because when he left, they had just transitioned to the network. You're paid based on your pay-per-view, your championships, all this kind of stuff. Those numbers have also gone up. Now, they're not nearly as high as they should be when you think about percentage of the money the wrestlers are making compared to whatever pro sports, if you want.
Right.
But there's good and bad going on here.
Yeah, no question. And again, the part that's not confirmed is the percentages of the pay cuts being requested. Clearly, people were asked to take pay cuts. So I just want to clarify that. The other major topic here is now the tag team division in WWE. It is crazy how much difference a year makes. 12 months ago at this time, everyone was complaining about how the SmackDown tag team division was so incredible that it was an insult that it was left off WrestleMania. They did the TLC match on TV. People were going crazy. The fever was so high. They were able to run it back at SummerSlam, albeit with more teams in a more clunky fashion. It's on that show where the downfall began, as the Wyatts retained the titles in a situation they easily could have dropped them. Since that match, check this out. The 6 have been fired. MFT mostly too. We'll talk about them in a bit. DIY has split. Tommaso Ciampa left. Motor City Machine Guns were fired. The Street Profits were moved to Raw. And Los Garza are being used as cannon fodder for singles. Garza and Fraxium are the only remaining real tag teams on the brand. That's it. SmackDown had 7 real teams. It's down to 2 and then a thrown together pair of champions. Opening it up to WWE at large. New Day is now gone, obviously. The Profits are on Raw with the Usos. The Creed brothers just returned. Los Americanos exist, as do Otis and Akira Tozawa, LWO, and the War Raiders. They're employed. They're not used on US TV. So I won't even count them for now. And then you have the champions, The Vision, Damian Priest, and R-Truth, which the former doesn't even have a tandem move. The latter doesn't have a tandem name. So 1 year after the SmackDown Tag Team division was literally the best in the entire world. That's how low the bar was for tag team wrestling. WWE now has what I would call 9 total tag teams across 2 brands, but only maybe 5 who you could legitimately consider as champions. They went from having New Day, the Usos, Motor City Machine Guns, Fraxium, the Lucha Brothers waiting in the wings, ready to go as a team. They went from having all of those, the Street Profits, having all of those teams, to more than half of them are gone, not used, or not used well. And making matters even worse, nothing is building an NXT either. Like, people that could get called up as new tag teams. Hank and Tank are down there. If they get called up, it's dog shit. It's Otis and Akira Tozawa. Here's the point. WWE, they have no choice now, Chris. They must merge the men's tag team titles and operate the division exactly like the women. The women's tag team division, despite its faults right now, with Brie Bella and Paige as champions and Irresistible Forces before them, the wrong people holding the titles, the division is actually operating properly. They need to do the exact same thing with the men. There's no harm. It should have happened 6 months ago. Why burden yourself with 2 tag team titles if you are not going to employ enough teams or book enough feuds to manage them? You have 8 singles titles. Focus on those. It's totally fine. Stop pretending.
Yeah. One of my New Year's resolutions on our year in review pod this year was to bring back tag team wrestling. And it wasn't just WWE, it was all of major professional wrestling in the United States. And at least for WWE, that is clearly not the case. I don't understand it from a basic storytelling or business standpoint. A tag team match is such a great, easy way to get a crowd up again. If you ever go to a show, it's rare that a tag team match is bad. There's just natural storytelling elements with the hot tags, with keeping somebody from making it. Like, it's always been a foundational part of pro wrestling. For a long time, it used to be like the opening match on a show because that'd get everybody going. And to just totally move away from that, there's nothing I don't believe on the Backlash card. It's unfortunate that WWE appears to feel, whether that's Triple H himself, whether that's Triple H dealing with the financial constraints on a roster he's given, I don't know. But it's unfortunate. It creates natural communication between people. Can 2 people coexist? Can people become friends? Surprise friends. Alexa and Charlotte. Like, what would Alexa Bliss be doing right now if we didn't have the women's tag team division? And I think we saw the women's tag team late 2025 into 2026 become the best thing on WWE television.
Yeah.
Because they put all these people together, created natural storylines. People got into it. Rhea and Io rejuvenated both of them. And instead, we're just kind of letting it all fall apart again. And I think that's just very bad business. I think it's bad creative.
It is. I mean, literally the best match on Raw Monday night was the men's tag team match. 2 groups of people that were neither of them were legitimate partners. They just teamed up, but it was the best match on the entire show. To your point on how tag team wrestling can get the crowd excited and invested in the product they are watching. And the inverse of this is what's happening with AEW. Now, their tag team division was in the shitter a year ago. And while they have
it was great. It was elite, the best there was. And then they added the trios and watered it all down and screwed it up.
Watered it down, screwed it up. Couldn't feature the trios or the tags. When they did, thrown together storylines, random title changes. It was really in the dumps. Now you have a tag team division there centered around FTR, the Young Bucks, Cope and Cage. I mentioned they're going to add MCMG and New Day. That means 4 of the top 6 tag teams in the United States right now are going to be in AEW. 2 of them in WWE. WWE could have 3 of 7 if the Lucha Brothers reform. And that's also not counting for Axiom, which I would put in that category, but they're not being used. So, okay, let's just say WWE could have a couple more to that category. But that's a significant gap nonetheless. Now, don't forget, AEW lied. When it opened, they said, we are going to treat tag team wrestling with just as much prominence as singles. They're going to regularly main event pay-per-views. I believe it's only happened one time, and that was Sting's retirement match when he and Darby Allin won the tag team titles. But they now have a chance to live up to that promise 7 years later. And even if they don't, they're at least in an era where with the roster they're going to have, they can make tag team wrestling legitimately something again. The question's if they're going to do it, but they at least now have the potential, and WWE has allowed that to happen based on decisions that it's made with its personnel and its booking, not just its personnel. Couple other items to discuss before we get out of this segment. And I know we've already gone long, but the New Day are no longer with WWE, okay? It was a major topic. JC Mateo and Tonga Loa were also released. I called this after the Wyatt 6 match, and then again last week after Jacob Fatu wiped out everyone who was there. Tala Tonga did return this Friday on SmackDown. He similarly got wiped out. As I've stated before, he's been booked really strong as a big man. Tama Tonga has been involved in that long-term storyline with Shinsuke Nakamura, we thought. I don't believe that has been touched since WrestleMania. And then Evil debuted in NXT. I thought he was going to the main roster. So there's a possibility that Solo Sikoa is the only one left, or it is possible that Tama and Tala are with him as a trio of MFT. Tama was starting to get over, and he was really emerging as a mid-carder over the last couple of months. I'd be surprised if he's also gone. I would understand it if he leaves along with his brothers, even if WWE, let's say, did not plan to cut him initially. But, JC Mateo, it never worked from the day he debuted. Tongaloa, a hysterical botch machine, including his last appearance. This is a situation where I can't say WWE lost anything with these two.
No, and it kind of ties into the tag team stuff too, where you and I love factions. And think about just a few years ago, the number of factions WWE had. Mm-hmm. Those are pretty much all gone too.
There's only one left.
I don't even... Is it the Bloodline? Are we even counting that?
Judgment Day. It's the only one left.
Oh, yeah, it's Judgment Day. And, again, look how much Judgment Day helped everybody in that group. It took everybody, other than maybe Finn, but it took everybody to a higher level than they had been because they used it as a proper storytelling device. Mm-hmm. Is all of WWE just going to be singles wrestling now?
That's what it seems like.
Like, what is the plan? What is the variety? I don't understand how that is going to keep people engaged and interested. How are you going to pace a show? Are we just going to be throwing stipulations on everything just so stuff feels different? I just don't understand. Look, I hated the Wyatt Six. It never worked.
Yeah.
It was too much. But you go from nonstop faction warfare to no more factions and just all at once, also barely any more tag teams. And it's I don't understand what creative is going to be tasked with doing here. You're going to run out of ideas. You're going to have every feud based on somebody attacking somebody from behind.
Yeah.
I don't understand these. Look, the individual decisions I can understand. You want to get rid of the Wyatts, or you want to get rid of some of the MFTs, or you want to get rid of that person. In a vacuum, I can understand individual decisions. People who weren't being used or whatever reason. But what is the long-term plan here? Mm-hmm. Is it just, all right, time to turn Sol Ruca into Becky Lynch and Obafemi into Roman Reigns, and we're just going to try to recreate that cycle? I don't understand what the total package long-term is.
Yeah, I mean, there's groups that can be expanded. There are some groups that still exist. Obviously, the Vision and the Bloodline are examples of that. But you're talking trios, basically. And there's two other trios, both versions of Americanos exist, right? But they're not running roughshod over the company. They're not, causing chaos for the general managers and, interfering and being involved in numerous different plot points or storylines or matches over the course of a show. That's interesting stuff. And let me be clear. We're drawing comparisons here. AEW has the Don Callis family. It's dog shit. Okay. They have the Death Riders. It's better, but largely dog shit. The guys who lose every match. The guys who win, and there's a couple who it's a little bit 50-50. Their factions over there, conglomeration, dog shit. Okay. So I'm not saying that they're the bastion of factions in AEW.
AEW has too many factions.
They have way
they've
too
been
many.
Around for too long.
They have too many. They're too long.
As always, WWE and AEW finding themselves on different ends of the spectrum, and we're just asking somebody to meet in the middle.
Yeah. What we want in WWE is two legitimate good factions, maybe three. Judgment Day, you're one. You're female led. That's awesome. Love everything Judgment Day is doing, even though it's getting a little bit long in the tooth with this Finn Balor. We'll talk about that later.
Remember when Judgment Day and Bloodline went face to face?
Yeah.
And Solo and Rhea were looking at each other, and the reaction you got there. Remember when the Wyatts and the MFTs first were face to face?
First time, yeah.
Everybody was into it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, everybody remembers Shield Wyatts back in the day.
Groups.
You can build up to factional warfare. It doesn't have to be you're in a faction, you're not in a faction. You had the LWO and Legato only feud with each other for 2 years straight. Mm-hmm. It's again, can we find a middle ground on some of this stuff?
That's precisely it. So just there's got to be more variety, to your point, in WWE television. They've nearly erased tag team wrestling. You got to put some factions together. And by the way, creating factions, a natural way to build tag teams. because you put a couple people together, they work really well. Now they're the tag team in that faction.
That's what New Day was. They were three separate people.
Yeah, it was a Freebird situation.
Put together and created two future world champions and one of the greatest groups and tag teams of all time.
Yeah. Yep, 100%. All right, let's move on. Roman Reigns was announced as appearing on every Monday Night Raw in May and June until the final week of the latter month as part of an advertising kind of campaign deal used to promote ticket sales. This was published last week. A couple days later, all of his June dates were pulled from the advertising, and sources confirmed to Getting Over this was just a TKO error. He was not supposed to be listed on those June dates. They weren't going to, feature him on this forthcoming Night of Champions show in Saudi Arabia, so therefore he doesn't need to be on Raw building a match that's not going to happen on that show. Now, I'm not going to waste any time on the baseless speculation that was around this on social media, but this does raise a question. If you remember what Roman said a few weeks ago, something along the lines of, I may not get the quote perfect, but enough of this part-time shit, you'll see my ass all summer. Now, to be fair, he did not say we would see him every week of the summer. I don't believe anyone expected that. And also, to be fair, summer doesn't even start until the penultimate week in June. I think it's like June 21st, though I think we all mentally agree it starts June 1st. Like June, July, and August are your summer months, right? Still, removing his name from 4 straight Raws, 3 of them in Europe, certainly caused ears to perk up. And it is interesting that he's not going to be on Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia. The last I heard, he is supposed to perform at Clash in Italy. The Gunther match was planned. Perhaps now it's a Jacob Fatu rematch. We'll talk about that later. Here's the point I'm making and the question I'm asking you, Vintage. Reigns is set to appear on all 3 Raws after Backlash, including the go-home to Clash in Italy. If he skips all of June, but is back for every Raw in July going into SummerSlam, that would put him on TV for 11 of 15 Raws with 2 B-level PLE appearances. So he'd be on 13 of 17 events based on his brand before SummerSlam. Does making 77% of the possible appearances for your brand live up to the statement, enough with the part-time shit, you'll see my ass all summer? Or do we need to wait and see what happens in August before we answer that question?
Well, I mean, yes, it has to play out. But if he's there through all of July as well, technically, no, it's not all summer because he's missing. And I think if it had been scattered throughout, if he missed 3 Raws over a 3-month span,
1 each month,
wouldn't feel the same. Yeah,
right.
It wouldn't feel the same. So, like, depends on how you want to look at the numbers. I don't love the idea of a champion just not being on TV for 3 straight weeks or 4 straight weeks, really, if you kind of count it all together. But also, as you just said, it's a European tour. So either you're on all of them or you're on none of them. So that's just simply how you're not going to get over there for one, because you're there. So if he's not on Night of Champions and he's not going to make that tour, then okay, that makes sense. Can we please get vignettes of him doing something at home, of him training, cut a promo in his weight room like The Rock did?
Precisely.
That is the thing that always bothers me when guys don't show up. It's like, you can put in the minimal effort to give us something else. Remember that one time Heyman and Roman cut some promo from a boat or something?
A dock. They were standing on a dock, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
If you're not going to be there, give me something.
Send Corey Graves over to his house to do a sit-down interview.
He ain't far away.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's the thing. I do think hitting nearly 80% of the shows fills the requirement of I'll be around all summer. But to your point, when you're missing 3/4 of a month, because I'm presuming he would be back for the last week in June. That one was not stated, as a date either way. If you're missing 3 Raws or 4 Raws in a row, that does feel a lot worse than missing 1 in April, 1 in May, 1 in June, and 1 in July.
Right.
So
I can understand being upset. Hey, your champion's, presuming he's still the champion at that point,
right,
is not on TV for a month. That's very annoying.
Exactly. But we have to see what's done. Is he written off with a huge injury? Does it make sense? Does he do something from home like you mentioned, which he really should be? We'll find out in June. We're a ways away from that. John Cena announced on social media that he is going to be at WWE Backlash. He said, quote, "After months of planning and effort, I am so excited to break some history-making news. I can't promise it'll be perfect, but I can promise it will change the WWE experience for superstars and fans. First of all, saying I can't promise it'll be perfect when promoting something. Why would you do that? What an own goal to start. But okay.
Also calling it history making at the same time.
That's the next thing I was going to say. It's history making news that's going to change the WWE experience. Screams to me that this is just a club WWE announcement, in which case I would not call it history making news. Go ahead.
My first thought was there's two possibilities. One, John Cena's pregnant. could be pulling a Bianca Belair. Or two, that the United States is compromised to a permanent end Osama bin Laden.
Again, for a second time.
For a second time. They've done it a second time.
Didn't that happen either at Backlash or in Tampa?
It was Extreme Rules, I think.
In Tampa, though, right?
I don't remember where it was.
I'm going to look it up.
I was out of WWE at that time, but I saw the clip. And we just hit literally 4 days ago, we hit the anniversary of that, the 15-year anniversary of that. So that came to mind. But yes, talking about experience tells me he's there to promote Club WWE, which is fine, but this feels like a Tony Khan overhype. If that's
God. Case. Yes, totally. I mean, history-making news. And by the way, yes, he announced it on May 1st, 2011, at the St. Pete Times Forum in Tampa, Florida, or St. Petersburg, Florida, which is the exact same location. I don't know if it's the exact same building. I forget which name is what now. These change all the time. I think they're in Benchmark Arena for this show. But yes, it's the same location. So it's pretty funny that it's pretty much 15 years later, an announcement that is not going to live up to the compromised to a permanent end situation.
Real quick,
yeah.
I know nothing really about this Club WWE. I don't even know if WWE knows. It feels like they rushed this thing quickly, from the logo to the commercial to explaining it. People are just signing up for a wait list at the moment.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Now I will say, around the same time, around WrestleMania, I saw some Fanatics thing, like their loyalty program or whatever like that is making them huge money.
It is.
So like business wise, it makes sense for WWE to do its own and have something like that. Is it going to feel like yet another money grab after a WrestleMania that was nothing but a money grab? Yes. So,
but this is the key. Hold on. But this is the key. You don't have to do it. You don't have to sign up. This is not watching the product. It is.
Yes.
Listen, if you want to be a fan of WWE, ideally, you want to watch every TV show and every premium live event. So when they do add ESPN or Netflix or whatever, and you have to pay a subscription, that sucks. Period. There's no argument around that. We've given you an option on the show so you can pay less money and still watch all that stuff. This is not a requirement. It is not a requirement to buy tickets. It is not a requirement to watch the show. It is not a requirement to buy merchandise. It is something extra that you can sign up for. I watch the entire NFL product, every game I possibly can. I do not pay for NFL Plus. I have no reason to do it. I watch as much NBA as I can. I'm a huge Knicks fan. I do not pay for NBA League Pass. I mean, and that's different. That's to watch the product, which this is not. So, as I've said before, if you think that Club WWE is another money grab from the company, you're correct. If you're disgusted by it and put off by it, I don't know where you're coming from, because no one is requiring you to spend the money. And it is literally just something that is extra. And also, I've seen people take issue with Cena being at Backlash. It is legitimately down the road from his home in Tampa. He's in a WWE ambassador role. He told us we were going to see him regularly, just not as a wrestler. At the same time, it's happening immediately after we just saw him at WrestleMania. So it feels like a lot in a short window. I have no problem. This guy's the face of this Club WWE thing. The event is near his home. Of course he's going to be there to make the announcement about Club WWE.
Yeah, and he's the one in the commercial for it and all that stuff. So, I get it, but it does feel like they're, I don't know, breaking the John Cena glass, a lot in a short amount of time. But I don't know. Something I have here.
If we see him at Clash in Italy or Night of Champions, then I will agree. For these two events, I'm okay with it.
I do also wonder, if they only bring Cena out to just promote something, does he start to become kind of like the Hulk Hogan?
Yeah.
It's like he's out to promote the WWE Network. He's out to promote his beer or whatever. And that's the only time we see him, is to promote something. And do people get tired of that?
I mean, that's his role. He's an ambassador. He's not in a position like AJ Styles where he's helping with talent, or The Undertaker where he's booking a promotion and doing a podcast. This is what he's being paid to do.
It'll be interesting because people kind of got sick of The Rock doing that too.
Well, what I find interesting is they're paying Dwayne Johnson all this money and he has a role on the board. He doesn't do shit.
Yeah, I don't know. His salary is tied to being on the board. There's a lot of people on boards of companies who are not involved in the day-to-day.
Yeah, but still for WrestleMania, you're telling me like during appearance for one of his movies, he can't be talking up WWE, or he can't do a magazine spread and talk about WrestleMania, or go over his history with ESPN, like do a segment with them where my top 5 WrestleMania matches, whatever the case might be. Like, why wouldn't you use him for that?
You would think. They did use him to go on McAfee and crap on Triple H last year, so that
no. He used McAfee to crap on Triple H.
Yes,
he did that. Yeah.
But back to the WWE part real quick.
Sure.
When I was a kid, I was part of the Burger King Kids Club, and you get a free Whopper on your birthday.
Yeah.
And as I'm sitting here on my desk, I have a laminated official Speed Racer pit crew pass that I got joining the Speed Racer Club as a kid.
Those are free though.
They were free.
That's the thing. Like these clubs now and these bonus benefits.
That's what I want to know. What does it mean? Do you get in a special? Is it like, does it just become a fast pass at Fanatics?
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be that early access tickets, discount for this or that, early access merchandise, unique merchandise, early access plus unique fan experiences with wrestlers and stuff. That's what it's going. You're going to pay to have access to those things. I mean,
yes, which again, business wise,
yeah, do it.
Makes sense.
Go do it.
And as with a lot of the stuff, if it doesn't sell well or if it's not doing well, they have to lower the price. That's how business works.
Or they'll close it, and that's what it is. Simple as that. Chelsea Green announced on social media that she underwent cardiac treatment for an arrhythmia. She had a 3-hour procedure. I'm just happy they caught it. Those are so hard to find, yet somewhat, let me say straightforward is the word I want to use, somewhat straightforward to fix. That's my understanding, at least. We know how Silver King is with medical stuff. That is not very blatant injuries, because those things I know. I don't believe she's going to need to miss too much time, but that's besides the point. Just hope she recovers. Can't wait to see Chelsea Green back on television, and I'm glad that she's getting healthier. Kevin Owens made a Canadian ticket sales announcement on social media. The only reason I bring it up is because, man, listening to him talk like a real person and not like a canned WWE superstar, it just made me long for this guy to return to TV. There is a huge Kevin Owens-sized hole in WWE creative right now, and I do truly hope whenever he does retire, hopefully not anytime soon, I do hope he does commentary. He's made for it. WWE needs him as part of their regular product again. If you ever wanted an indication that SmackDown is indeed Cody Rhodes' show, how about this? Rey Fenix, Ricky Saints, Royce Keys, Blake Monroe, and Jade Cargill, all previously from AEW, are on that brand, along with his friend Matt Cardona. Compare that to Raw. It's Ethan Page and Penta. That's it. Now, CM Punk's there, but he doesn't really count. He was in WWE before. That is a huge and obvious disparity. I just felt like pointing it out because I noticed it last week, and I wanted to bring it up on the show. Arlo Smith asked us on Spotify. He said, I try to keep up, but I may have missed it. Did you guys address the CM Punk versus Las Vegas fans general topic coming out of WrestleMania? We did not address it, so you did not miss anything. And frankly, Chris, I don't have much to say about it. Like, fans these days are absolutely insane, particularly for wrestling, but sports and entertainment, we see it all the time. Celebrity culture is run amok. And as far as I'm concerned, Punk was well within his right to smack a phone out of someone's hand or shove someone away who was encroaching on his personal space, or perhaps being a creep to AJ Lee, his wife, and Bailey, his good friend. So, if he hit someone in the face or did something unnecessary, I'd criticize. But other than that, good for him, man. Push people away, stand up for yourself. The security issue was apparently a big deal at WrestleMania.
Yes, I had 2 thoughts. One of which is leave the wrestlers alone. Like, and this is not just at WrestleMania. How many times does Rhea Ripley have to talk about people at the airport?
Totally.
Following them around. Like, guys, these
the
are
stalkers
people
that Liv had and Sonya Deville had. I mean, it's real shit.
Yes, like, and you can't blame a wrestler not knowing if someone's trying to be friendly and someone's trying to be a creep, because they have to deal with a lot of creeps. So please just try to leave them alone. Give them their space, for one. 2, I don't know what the heck the WWE security hotel situation was in Vegas, because it seems like it was worse than it ever had been. At WrestleMania 40, I went into the Wrestlers Hotel in Philly because that's where the media day was. But I had to get in with my pass. And, wrestlers were hanging around the lobby in the hotel and they're kind of allowed to do their thing. like pro sports teams and college sports teams, they take a bus together to the hotel. Everything's done to get, like, they got apps that tell them where to be and everything's all that stuff. It still seems like, because the way wrestling is always operated is that a lot of the wrestlers just do it on their own. And Becky Lynch talked about this in an interview recently too, whether it's booking not always, but
this
sometimes.
Stuff we did cover. I just want to clarify, but
yeah, booking a hotel, booking a car, doing your own travel, and that leaves the wrestlers vulnerable. WWE TKO has so much money now. They should. Everybody's situation is a little bit different, but they should keep everybody, I think, together more if they can.
Well, yeah, they did. The issue is just these hotels in Las Vegas. This one in particular, the MGM. It's just such when you have a casino in the basement of the bottom floor of the lobby of your hotel, you can't filter people in. Like you just have to leave it open, is my understanding.
Yeah.
The issue largely was that there was not more security around them constantly, and they figured a couple people here or there. Even in the clips with CM Punk, there's security there. There's just not enough of them. That's the problem. So they got probably complacent, I would guess, with the way it worked at the Fontainebleau last year, and it did not work the same this year at MGM. And I know that was there's a lot of little things that talent is bothered by, and they mentioned to their bosses and stuff. The big complaint coming out of WrestleMania was security. That was the number one thing.
And again,
and I'd assume it's going to get
addressed. That might be a Vegas specific thing, like we said. Like, we've covered big events. Teams have their own hotels. You can't get in there without a pass or something like that.
Totally.
But if your hotel is a casino, maybe that just makes it much more difficult.
Your SOL. And lastly, you all knew this was coming. The Tulsa crowd absolutely sucked for SmackDown on Friday night. It was horrendous, truly terrible, even during the parts of the show that were actually good. But there were two incredible fan signs. The first, at least we are Pat Maca free. And the second, I miss Drew's whining and complaining. Both awesome. The second one's probably a little bit better. Neither tops the Asuka and Kairi Sane sign from, I believe, January. They are firmly in the top 5 of the year so far. The opposite was the case for Raw on Monday night. I did not notice any quality fan signs, but Omaha was a tremendous crowd, even louder than I believe they came across on TV based on the in-arena clips I saw. Raw was much better as a show. That's usually the case, but the crowd was exponentially better than Friday. The one issue with Monday night was they did not have a single women's match, only one women-only segment on the show in 2 hours, and 2 of the matches were incredibly short. There were like 25 minutes of wrestling on that show, and I could not understand why, especially when it was, I believe, the shortest Raw since the Netflix move. It was strange how little was built on the show, considering how many events are ahead. We'll talk about that a little bit later. It is not just Backlash coming up, but 2 other main roster events before the end of this month. They put on a short Raw that had no women's wrestling and very little wrestling in total.
Yeah, SmackDown, was not a good show. I didn't think it was very good. And Raw was very limited. You know, it's like a joke that everybody points out, that one like Vince Russo episode of, was it TNA, that had actually 0 wrestling on the show one time? Like, you always wonder how close we get to that at some points.
Yeah, I mean, they came decently close on Raw. In terms of percentage of TV time for wrestling, it was way lower than it should have been, and relatively shocking, all things considered. Now, before we move on, because we're pretty deep into this show already, Silver King does need to remind you that whether we are talking about Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, or premium live events on Netflix, we are all in with NordVPN. It is easy to set up a drastically better viewing experience each night with the same high-quality streams, except they become commercial-free shows. All you have to do is sign up at nordvpn.com/gettingover, open the app, quick connect to another country like the United Kingdom or France, open Netflix and watch the program. NordVPN also allows you to get around online censorship and surveillance while protecting your private data, and one account can be used on up to 10 devices. To get the best discount, go to nordvpn.com/gettingover. Our link will give you up to 4 extra free months off the 2-year plan, and there's no risk, nor is a 30-day money-back guarantee. Everyone who signed up for this during WrestleMania absolutely loved it. We probably saw more signups here than any time before. So just improve your WWE viewing, save some money, browse safer online, and get the best discount for the best VPN at nordvpn.com/gettingover. We have so much show left and still so much to talk about that's not even going to make this episode. Many of you have been asking us about the Hulk Hogan docuseries airing on Netflix. We will discuss that Thursday on the WWE portion of our show. We will also finalize all the mishigas around the Hey Now Championship. All of that is coming Thursday, but we are now going to begin our full breakdown of everything that happened across Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown, and we're going to do it as we always do, by sliding into the main event.
This is the main event.
Cody Rhodes opened SmackDown. It was all cheers during Cody's entrance, but another mixed reaction when the music faded, let's say 65-35. Rhodes, still sporting a shiner, revealed that he's medically cleared, but basically seeking his next challenger. Ricky Saints answered in his main roster debut. Perfect aesthetic, other than the stupid vocalized intro. Surprise immediate, but light heat. He didn't say much other than that he was starting the revolution on Friday Night Saints. You need to do better than just the first letter. You got to do 2 syllables if you're going to do it that way. Cody asked what changed between now and the last time he did this. Ricky pointed out that Cody's banged up and seriously aged, carrying the WWE Championship around 3 different times. Saints ran down his NXT credits, saying he's always put Rhodes over for his success, but it's his turn, and the match was made with a handshake. It was hardly Saints' best promo, either in WWE or really on national TV. It seemed to me like he had some nerves in the biggest moment of his career, opening a main roster WWE show. I don't blame him. I'd be shitting a brick if I was in his position. The primary culprit was a lack of content, though. I'm going to make your show my show. That only goes so far. I'm surprised they didn't allude a bit more to their past history, even without specifics. There's a line you can walk that would have worked both for casuals and those in the know. They chose not to really do that. Plus, Saints is so much better when he's allowed to just say shit with gusto. So it was something like a 6.5 out of 10 for a guy who probably averages an 8 most of the time. But I absolutely loved that WWE threw Ricky right into the deep end. And it was cool that Rhodes was game for a TV match with his guy on night 1. Ricky's line, I'm going to change who this show is about. That was killer. I assumed it would be a hard-fought match with Rhodes doing whatever he could to put Saints over before ultimately prevailing because, he's the champion. That's a typical way to immediately establish someone as a high-level mid-carder. We'll talk about what happened in the match momentarily. But again, opening segment, thought we were going to get an 8, got a 6.5.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. I'm still not used to the name because I don't watch NXT regularly. He's still Ricky Starks to me. Mm-hmm. So I'm probably going to say it incorrectly for a while on here. I will try to be better about it. I thought his promo, he was looking down as he was talking too much. And it was like not engaging on the hard cam. They would have to cut in when they'd move into close-up shots, you could like feel it through the screen a bit more. But there was a lot of, it's kind of how he talks, but there's a lot of like looking down, and that is a little bit weird with the big kind of arena around him. So that was just be one little adjustment. 2, the lights are way too bright on him on the entrance. You can't see what he's doing, where he puts the hand up to the face and the lights go away as he moves the hand down. But if you don't know that's his move, you don't see it. So cool it with the lights a little bit. We need to see his silhouette essentially.
True.
And we don't. It's just all light on him. And they did make a reference to their past. It was Cody.
Yeah, they
who
referenced
said,
it.
Yeah, Cody said the last time you stepped up to me, which you tweeted the answer to that. But it wasn't something in AEW back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, they haven't fought in a long ass time. So this was, fresh to a degree, especially for WWE, but they just mentioned that they had interaction before. They didn't get into the details of their past and, so on. That's what I was talking about.
But it was a teasy way of what happened the last time. And if you don't know, you're going to Google Cody
right,
Rhodes
I'm just saying,
Ricky Saints and get there.
I'm just saying we needed more meat on the bone if it was going to be like a really good segment. Instead, it was boilerplate.
Yeah.
Is what I was trying to
do fully agree that debuting him against the champion is a great way to do that.
Yes.
Now, a big part of that is probably because he's really good friends with Cody.
Totally.
But much better than being backstage and who I'm going to sign with. So
yeah,
thumbs up to that.
Sami Zayn backstage confronted Rhodes for calling him sarcastic and condescending last week, saying that calling Cody the golden boy, that was meant to be a compliment. It's what everyone in WWE wants to be. Sami said he's tired of the misunderstandings between them. They're supposed to be friends, the same, the last of a dying breed, pure baby faces. Rhodes said that there's a lot of truth to that, but they are not the same. Bit surprised they went back to the Cody-Sami deal so soon, but maybe he gets one more main event failure prior to getting built back up in the fall and winter. Most unfortunate about this segment was the lack of crowd response, because Zayn putting himself on the same level as Rhodes is something that should have drawn major boos like he has been receiving for weeks now. As I said earlier, the Tulsa crowd was crap all night. This was a good example of it.
Yeah, we'll talk more about Sami. I don't know what's going on with him.
Oh, that's a kind of harbinger for negativity later. And I don't think I'm going to be able to stand for that, but we'll put a pin in it for now. We had Rhodes against Saints. This was their first singles match in nearly 6 years and their second one ever. Ricky got some booze for showboating with Old School in his emote. Cody caught him with a snap power slam, disaster kick, and Cody cutter, but Saints countered into a version of Crossroads and hit his Revolution DDT for a 2.5 count. That was his NXT finisher. Except here he went for Rochambeau, which is his long-term finisher. Cody countered into Crossroads to win. It was a little bit sloppy. Ricky bumped on his head. He seemed to be okay. Solid work from both guys. Did not go as long as I expected, and Saints did not get as much offense as I expected. I presumed the entire point was for Cody to legitimize him, a false finish or two, really get the crowd into the potential of an upset. Instead, it felt like Ricky was any other mid-carder in a match with the champion. WWE is far, far too protective of its main champions. There was no...
Especially when he's injured.
There was no reason for this match to be so lopsided when Saints was debuting. The entire point is to try to get him over, to show, oh wow, he can actually go toe-to-toe with Cody while injured, an injured version of Cody. My strong guess here is that Ricky was supposed to debut on the SmackDown after WrestleMania in front of a better crowd, but due to Cody's black eye, it got pushed a week. It sucks because this was a huge downgrade. Overall, I'd give his total debut a B- or C+ on a scale where Fatal Influence was an A+.
Yeah, I think that's a good grade. The ceiling, if you don't know Ricky Starks, you're going to have to paint a higher ceiling, I think.
And then immediately after the bell, Gunther emerged out of the crowd, attacked Rhodes from behind, knocked him out in a sleeper hold to a round of jeers before holding up the WWE Championship. Definitely confusing to have him just show up on SmackDown out of the blue going after Cody, especially after the interaction with LA Knight on Raw the prior Monday. It seemed like an obvious program was building, which would make this a clear pivot, especially since Knight was off TV this past Monday. Also, where the hell is Randy Orton? The guy who stood tall at the end of WrestleMania by punting Rhodes. Cody's back. Randy's not there. Beyond that, this is the second time Gunther has randomly started something out of nowhere when you consider this is what happened with Seth Rollins going into WrestleMania. I had long heard that WWE was setting up Reigns and Gunther for Clash in Italy, so this was a legitimate shakeup. Perhaps that means Roman Jacob is going to get run back 3 weeks later, but it's probably smart to get Gunther away from not only Reigns, but Obafemi too, especially if neither of those feuds is planned to happen anytime soon. This did seem more like a brand shift, not simply a one-off attack, so it could be part of Paul Heyman's favor if Brock Lesnar is retired, and that's not going to be the favor for SummerSlam. Who the hell knows at this point? It got a lot of heat. Putting Gunther against Cody is going to get Cody back over as a babyface. There's a lot of positives to this, but it did seem random and out of nowhere, again, when you consider the LA Knight of it all, the Randy Orton of it all, and the fact that Gunther is a Raw superstar.
Yeah, my first thought was, random. he's Raw. Why, Cody, okay, all right, I'm all right, could be good. They did fight once at King of the Ring. Cody won. There is a little bit of history between them.
Definitely.
Which we don't know the why. It's totally out of place, and we'll just have to see what it is. Again, don't love the sleeper. Don't love a almost, instant out of nowhere sleeper to put someone down. It's kind of weird, but the same thing I always say about that.
That's my main critique. It's the same thing. I was saving it. I was letting you get in first. Gunther has become a sleeper hold merchant. It's extremely and unnecessarily boring for a feud or two it plays, especially against larger opponents or legends. What made Gunther so great throughout his career was his varied moveset and his ability to finish people with everything from a lariat to a powerbomb to a splash to a chop. He's won and retained titles with a chop to the chest. Now he has one finisher, and it's a boring-ass submission move. Now, all of that said, to be fair, seeing Cody pass out like he did so quickly, that's quite a visual because he's not a guy who does that. It doesn't happen with Cody Rhodes. But they got to get Gunther away from this move because it's absolutely killing his aura every single time, every single feud. It's a sleeper hold.
Well, he used to be a power wrestler, and he's just not anymore. And is that because they just slimmed him down, so they changed his move?
He still does a lot of power stuff. I mean, he's still doing his German suplexes and his big splash and his power bomb. It's the finishing sequences. He just keeps locking in the sleeper. It's so effing boring.
I hate it. I hate the sleeper. I'm so tired of it.
I'm so tired, pun not intended, so tired of it. All right, so that was the first half of this main event. We'll move to the second half. Now we're going to get into the Bloodline and Awahi family, everything that happened on SmackDown. But we're going to save the Raw portion for our WWE Backlash Ultimate Preview at the end of the show. Solo Sikoa on SmackDown cut a promo speaking for Tala Tonga, saying he's angry that Jacob Fatu didn't just take out MFT, but his family. He promised to pay back Fatu when he got to the building. The Usos again surprised with an interruption, saying Jacob's got bigger problems with Roman Reigns, who gets first dibs. Jay put over the Tongan death grip as a sacred move, referencing but not naming Haku, while saying that's supposed to be a last resort deal. Solo no-sold it, but gave Tala the nod to take out the Usos, which he did with surprising quickness. Sikoa told the Usos that Reigns isn't his tribal chief and he doesn't give a damn what he says. I didn't mind the content or the construction of this segment, but man, on this one, I understand why the crowd was dead.
I'm bored, brother.
Jay's signature unchecked aggression was missing when it would have been well placed with him describing the move. Jimmy said nothing. And while Roman Jacob does feel somewhat fresh on Raw, the Usos and MFT on SmackDown is so old hat. MFT is a completely dead concept, and I put that note down before I knew officially those other guys were released. We'll talk more about him later. I get that Tala is 6'8". This dude is getting positioned way too strong for someone who has done nothing of significance on the main roster. He's taking out the multi-time tag team champions and a world heavyweight champion with like 2 boots and a powerbomb. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, and it goes back to the tag team conversation we had, which was the Usos went from being the tag team champions almost going into WrestleMania to they just want to be Roman's lackeys. And it worked the first time because like it was built up. Mm-hmm. It's so jarring for them to not be like, I want to get our titles back. They are solely focused on whatever Roman wants, and it's a dramatic character shift from them. Because just a few weeks ago, Jay hates when people say he's like Roman.
Right.
So it just feels very abrupt and below them, and it just makes them look weird and petty. And like you said, a bit repetitive.
Yeah, it makes sense somewhat because he's specifically feuding with Jacob. If he was feuding with LA Knight, it'd be like, why the hell are they so involved in this? But it's a family affair. I get it. Not enough for them to need to be on SmackDown fighting MFT and Solo and all the. It's way, way too much Samoan stuff across both shows right now. Royce Keys fought Angel, and I bet you did not think this was going to be part of the main event, but it is. Welcome to the main event, both guys. Keys pounced a distracting Berto off the ring apron and then caught Angel flying, putting him over the top turnbuckle. He climbed to the second rope and hit a spinning World's Strongest Slam, the spot of Friday night, plus the ultimate spinebuster, which is what they're calling his finisher, to win the match. Fatu later dapped him up backstage, saying he's the same guy from when they used to roll around in his 89 Accord in California. He started gassing Jacob up, saying he needs to turn into the werewolf, not get soft in WWE, remember the smell of the streets, to ensure Roman doesn't take food off his table. Tala immediately pounced Royce through a leaning table, and then he completely laid out Jacob. I neither love squash matches nor how Los Garza is booked, but this definitely worked. The spin move off the ropes was crazy impressive, and it would be great if Keys did the same thing with the spinebuster when needing a super version of that move in the future. The backstage segment with Keys and Fatu, that was even better. WWE has played into their shared history in California, and the best part about it is that it's not fabricated. They do have legitimate history together, wrestling in the area. Royce in a segment with a guy who's about to main event against Roman Reigns, that shows legitimate effort toward getting him over. I was extremely pleased with that alignment.
I came out of this wanting Roman versus Royce Keys more than Roman versus Jacob Fatu.
A little bit.
Royce looks awesome. He's doing power moves. That's pro wrestling to me, man. Spinebuster, delivering that with a power. And then seeing the backstage, like of the two, Royce Keys like looks like the more intimidating one.
Oh yeah,
just because he was just done with his match and stuff like that, and Jacob's there in a hoodie. So I don't know how Jacob dresses, but I was like, man. But I say that to say I think they're doing a really good job with Royce Keys so far. He's not the main point of this, but I like this
for sure. So the Usos fought Solo and Tala. Tala dominated for a while until he took a header into the top of the ring post and a J-Tope Suicida. Jay landed a series of punches on Solo, avoiding spinning Solo, hitting a spear for a broken fall. The Usos dumped Tala over the ropes. He destroyed them ringside into the furniture. When Tala set up for something into the announce table, though, Jacob attacked him out of the crowd with 3 Irish whips into the ring post and the steel steps into the head. Solo tried to reason with him, but Jacob locked in the Tongan death grip with taped fingers. Then he did the same to Tala while standing on the stairs ringside, releasing for a Samoan drop into the announce table. While Fatu was getting cheered for all of this, once he got in the ring with the Usos, fans chanted OTC. Jacob shoulder-checked both of his cousins and left. This was a full mixed bag. I did not care about the match at all. Tala was again oddly dominant, despite going against a legendary team and a world heavyweight champion. Jacob's post-match attack was largely good, doubling down on what he did last week on SmackDown and Raw, both with the Tongan Death Grip and taking out MFT people. He's basically eliminated all of MFT by himself and utilized this move now on 3 different family members. He was certainly not booked like a heel on Friday night, but again, fans,
say this.
It's fine, yeah. Fans favored the Usos, though, when they went face-to-face, and they made their voices known to that end. As far as the Tongan Death Grip goes, it was still not over at this point. Fans are either having trouble seeing it, or probably more so understanding its effectiveness. It would have behooved WWE to run a video package of the move's history to help educate them at some point during a 3-hour SmackDown. 90 seconds of that would have gone a long way. Now, they ended up doing it on Monday night, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But on Friday, I was like, if you're going to keep introducing it and you're going to have Jay put it over, then give us a video package. Tell us why it matters. They failed to do that. So the Jacob part of this, the attacking, the dominance for a number 1 contender, important. Everything else, though, the Usos, Solo, and Tala, I just didn't care.
Yeah, I didn't care. To WWE's credit, they are trying to get the Tongan Death Grip over.
Yeah.
Like, they are highlighting it much more, which is something we said that they needed to do, and they are. Now, could they do a better job of that? Yes. But to something you said, Jacob acted like a face on this show.
Totally.
You know, with Royce Keys backstage, standing up to the Usos, attacking the MFTs at the end. That's just face stuff. So I think we were saying, let's see what happens. Is it a heel turn? I think I can say now it wasn't a heel turn. Was it a heelish move against Roman? Maybe. But he seems to be still very much on the tweener side, which is okay for kind of the character he is. One other thing I forgot to mention earlier, but Solo, this is a good place to mention it. Solo basically saying earlier in the show with the promo with all them, we don't care about Roman, whatever. Like, he had to say something in response to what Roman said about him on Raw.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad he was able to at least stand up for himself a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I do agree that as of Friday night, it was not like full heel Jacob Fatu. No question about that. This main evented over Cody Ricky. I really couldn't understand why. The Samoan storyline, it has main evented every TV show since WrestleMania, Raw and SmackDown. That's fine for Monday night. And perhaps it's okay for the go home SmackDown before Backlash too. It's going to be the main event of that show. But it was, I'm going to use this word a few times. It was so boring to me that this match ended the show Friday. It wasn't even the best tag team match on the episode. And the other men's match was only mediocre. The original Bloodline story, it elevated so many people and it had so many offshoot angles coming from it. Among the reasons is that it had depth. Now, there's only been 3 weeks of this. And I want to be fair, but comparatively, it has been incredibly shallow to this point.
You know why he was the main event? Because right now, as we're talking, I'm looking, I have my multi-view up on my TV.
ESPN?
On ESPN2, Jacob Fatu is talking on SportsCenter, being interviewed, and the Chiron says, used Tongan Death Grip on Roman Reigns on Raw.
Okay.
So they're working to get this over and position him at that spot. So there you go.
And by the way, on my criticism of the Usos wearing Raiders jerseys a couple of weeks ago, Tom P on Spotify pointed out, he said, at least they were wearing Ronnie Lott jerseys, and that's a former San Francisco 49er. I'm not sure if they were actually wearing his jersey or just his number, probably the latter, but that was an interesting point, and Ronnie Lott was incredible, so shout out to Ronnie Lott. But as Paul S. pointed out on Twitter, he said Kevin Owens recently refused to wear a Rangers jersey at a hockey game despite being there for WWE public relations. So as I said, be better sports fans, Zeus's. All right, before we move into the rest of the show, Silver King does need to remind you that here at the Getting Over Wrestling podcast,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. And for those of you who are subscribed, you know we've been hitting them out of the park over the last few weeks. Make sure you support us. We'll continue delivering performance-enhancing audio into your ear holes. We really appreciate it. Helps us pay our bills. buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Now, WWE Backlash Ultimate Preview, that is still coming up later in the show, but there is a lot more to discuss from Raw and SmackDown, and we're going to do it by breaking down the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Hey, Yo. Survey says one more for the good guy.
Say hello to the back.
Don't sing it. Bring it.
Charlotte Flair fought JC Jane. Rhea Ripley interrupted a pre-match interview offering to have Charlexa's back against Fatal Influence. Alexa Bliss was game. Flair wanted it to just be them. It's nice how much personality that she is getting to show in her promos now, Charlotte. Jane cut a ring walk promo promising to embarrass the legends of WWE one at a time. Solid heat. Nowhere near last week because, again, the crowd sucked. Charlotte teased doing a devil's kiss, but instead debuted this inventive thigh grip monkey flip move, landing it a few times in succession. Flair chopped the shit out of her before landing the really dumb cartwheel lariat and 2/3 of a single moonsault. JC took out her knee and then hit a pump knee, but Charlotte countered rolling encore with a boot and locked in the figure eight. Fallon Henley pulled her arms before a submission, and Lainey Reed was able to distract Charlotte after Bliss got involved ringside, allowing Jane to hit rolling encore and beat the 14-time world champion right in the middle of the ring. Influence attacked after the bell, with Ripley, of course, saving the day. JC avoided Riptide and kind of pushed Rhea into Charlotte, but they shook hands in appreciation after the fact. This was exactly how it needed to be booked. I do wish Jane had worked with a woman who was a bit faster in the ring. Flair slowed her down markedly. Look at the Ripley match last week to see what she can really do. But beyond that, I felt Charlotte dominated way too much of the offense. Again, look at the Rhea match. It was a little bit more 50-50. The group interference, still fresh, heel upset win, hero save, all that's classic booking, leading into a 6-woman match that is finally going to get Henley in the ring, by the way. Huge moment for JC, big moment for Influence as a trio. Plus, shout out to Flair for taking the 3-second tan. Perfection 2 weeks in a row. Good.
Yeah, definite good. I mean, the reason she was in there with JC Jane instead of somebody else is because she's Charlotte Flair, and JC Jane now has a win over her. So that is called a push, man. Mm-hmm. Like, you get 2 segments on your debut last week with great heat. You beat Charlotte the next week as a heel doing heel stuff. That's how you establish somebody. And I'm excited for the 6-woman match that they're going to do, apparently not on Backlash.
Well, that's the weird thing, right? It's a perfect match for Backlash. A lot of star power on the face side, a fresh heel trio, getting a major spot. It's better than at least 2 other matches that are going to be on that show. Yet it's going to happen on SmackDown instead. I don't understand that at all.
So there is a tag team match on Backlash. Actually, I said earlier there wasn't. We'll get to it later. But yeah, that's the exact type of thing you should put on this show. Right. They're not.
Exactly. Sammy came out with a depressed gingerbread man mannequin saying fans have turned on him for being a good guy for no reason, just like they turned on Bob Dylan when he played an electric guitar. Zayn again called out his ride or die fans only to get booed, saying the mascot represents Trick Williams more than him because it's a shell of a man wearing a costume. He said it's easy to be all flashy like Trick with an entrance and catchphrases. What's hard is grinding in the ring year after year. Sammy said the costume was pure disrespect, but he stopped himself from attacking it after balling up his fist. He shook its hand. He kicked it in the sugar plums instead. Then he started beating on it and tearing it apart until Trick, I guess, made the save. Trick literally gets in, chases Sammy out of the ring, realizes the gingerbread man has been torn apart. He throws up the X for the mascot, calls trainers into the ring. That legitimately made me laugh. I'm not sure why cameras cut away. It looked like he was getting put onto a stretcher. It would have been great. Then Trick cuts a promo outside the trainer's room after checking on Gingy, learning at the end from a doctor who opened the door in surgical gear that he has been compromised to a permanent end. He decided to defend his honor against Zayn in a rematch at Backlash. WWE then aired an in memoriam graphic for the gingerbread man, whose death was confirmed by Trick later in the show. Joe Tessitore was unhinged seeing the graphic for this. Amazing job. There will be a funeral live in Jacksonville next week. The graphic for that was top tier, and it led to Sammy complaining to Nick Aldis, who also played it straight and said Sammy needs to show respect because everyone is grieving. Aldis also confirmed the rematch for Backlash. The gingerbread man should have been so stupid conceptually, but I gotta admit, it has completely hit as a storytelling device, probably because of the seriousness with which all 4 guys have been treating it. Everyone but Zayn played it completely straight, particularly Williams and Aldis on Friday. I need a 10 Hershey's Bell salute for the dude next week. The comedy stuff with Trick completely worked for me. Those not familiar with him in NXT, you probably don't know he's a total ham. He does comedy just as well as he does serious stuff. In that way, I'm not comparing him to this person, But in that way, the charisma, the comedy chops, the flash, in that way, he is like The Rock. While both have been operating as heels.
No, he's not The Rock. It finally hit me in this segment. He's like The Rock in some ways. But this bit, the stuff that he's like really seems to be good at here, he's Booker T.
That also.
He's able to treat something as a joke seriously.
Yes.
To get it even more over. And the timing and everything. Yeah, sorry, keep going.
No, it's fine.
I had that same thought.
No, that's a great point. I'm glad you made that clarity. He has the charisma of The Rock and some of that stuff. He's able to do serious and comedy like The Rock. But the way he treats it with a straight face and completely buys into it and sells it is Booker T. You're 1,000% right. And he's always been a little bit of a mix of those two guys too in NXT, and Booker T influencing him has certainly helped to that degree. But while both of these guys have been operating as heels, this was definitely the full flip for Williams to the babyface side of tweener. Zayn continues doing well with his delusional face-turned heel gimmick, but WWE, they need to figure out a refraction point that will lead the fans to truly hate him. Maybe this was supposed to be it. Maybe next week he's going to get massive heat during that funeral, but there was still a little bit of hesitancy from the fans because they know he's bad. They just don't seem to care that much. This was so much better than it had any right being. It was good.
It was great. I saw some people comparing it to Dean Ambrose and the Plant, Mitch, and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And it's like, no, this is clearly just a line that Trick got over going into WrestleMania. He kept dropping it on my interview with him too, and he says it with such enunciation that he got that over. And so they turned it into something a little bit extra and pulled some more out of this. This was a full face turn for Trick Williams coming out to make the save for the Gingerbread Man. Like, that is the moment. That is the signal to people. This is the guy you cheer for, which is why when Jay turned face or Roman, like criticizing, like we didn't necessarily get that real moment. Mm-hmm. That was this moment here with Trick to save a freaking costume that was getting beat up. And you talk like Trick backstage promo, great as well. You forgot the most important line, which was talks about how much his watch is worth, how much his necklace is worth. And then he mentions that he can get Lash Legend's ass whenever he wants.
He did.
Lash Legend, his fiance in real life. I couldn't believe he said that when I heard it. I was like, I cannot, like, the way he said it, the emphasis, it was incredible. It was all over my Twitter For You feed, people making jokes about it. Like, he's getting over in a very, very creative and energetic and charismatic way, the same way like LA Knight did back in the day, which is like people like energy. They're attracted to that. Like they want to be a part of it. And Trick just exudes that time and time again. Looking forward to this. Great stuff. The Sammy thing, to what I said earlier, I didn't understand him doing the Cody thing. Like that was weird and like weeks old. It didn't really feel relevant to anything. Mm-hmm. And here it's like, yes, he is now kind of the joke heel. Do they want to get him to the real
They have
heel?
to. They need him
to. That's where they have to get him.
They have to. And hopefully that happens next week. He crashes the funeral. He does stuff. He gets heat. Maybe they're in front of a better crowd.
Still it's still like a joke, though. Like he has to do something actually dastardly.
I don't know that he has to, because it's being treated with such seriousness. And fans are going to have such a good time. I presume they're going to knock it out of the park. WWE usually does when they do stuff like this. That if he just interrupts a fun time that they're having, similar to Fatal Influence interrupting a damn good women's tag team match, or a match, I should say, involving 4 huge stars that fans badly wanted to see. It's the juxtaposition of that allows him to get the heat. So we'll see. I don't know if they're going to be able to accomplish it, but I think we're in alignment. Sami Zayn can't just be a bad guy. He needs to be a hated guy. And that is how far you need to take him down before you can then have the crisis of conscience, turn back babyface, and win the championship next year, which at least I still believe will happen.
If that's the plan. Yes.
If that's the plan. In the Judgment Day Clubhouse, Liv Morgan asked Roxanne Perez why Finn Balor visited last week. Roxy reminded that she told Finn to get out of the clubhouse and never come back, but she apologized for not sharing it with the group, as Morgan had to find out for herself watching Raw on Netflix. So now we know Liv Morgan and Kevin Owens watch the show, and apparently no one else does. Actually, I think Roman Reigns does as well, but those 3 and no one else. So Liv made her literally promise not to keep any more secrets from the family. Raquel Rodriguez patted her on the head afterward, but Perez was clearly annoyed by what went down. I've said it before, it's cool to see this faction not only have more women than men, but now position Liv as the clear leader, even though they're not supposed to have a single person in charge. Plus, as longtime listeners know, it takes a lot to get anything other than a good from these segments. Such a natural way to create backstage interaction, develop characters, etc. This does indeed get a good.
Yes, it was good. I did wonder last week when that happened. It's always like the thing in wrestling. You're never sure if something you're seeing backstage is like canon or kayfabe, or like, do you watch the show or not?
Right.
Kevin Owens has opened that door of like being the person who watches the show. So this answered that question, and they addressed it in a good way.
Finn Balor fought JD McDonough. Dominic Mysterio regularly pulled Balor's leg as interference. Perez joined him ringside, with Morgan and Rodriguez following suit later. Balor nearly took a bad bump on a running Spanish fly, only for Mysterio to interfere for the fourth time, tripping him on the ropes, and he finally got tossed by the referee. Balor got knees up to block a moonsault, following with a sling blade when Morgan jumped on the apron and threw a bell hammer to Perez. After Finn hit a shotgun dropkick with the referee distracted, Roxy struck him in the throat with the hammer, and JD hysterically won with a simple headbutt and a pass-out cover. A few months ago, I'd have been furious with Balor losing. It literally took 5 people and a weapon to beat him on Monday. The entire time, he's getting huge cheers from the crowd. And when he entered to the ring, there were these 2 women they showed on screen who looked like they were going to pass out. They were so attracted to him. This was largely done to advance the story with Perez and presumably Balor. It was nice for McDonough to get a win for once, but Balor does need to kind of extricate himself from Judgment Day sooner than later. He cannot fight them 1-on-5 or even 2-on-4. And he already beat Dominic. Once he gets the win over JD and once Roxy turns, they got to move away. They just got to be involved in something else before SummerSlam is what I'm trying to say. I'm not expecting a change this month. I might be okay if they lasted into June, but like July 1st, they got to be involved in a different program. Still, this was good.
Well, also, he beat JD last week, 2 weeks ago? Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
I thought last week was a interference.
It wasn't last week.
Like
it was 2 weeks ago. It was April 20th in a 6-minute match on Raw. I was looking it up while you were talking. So like he has beaten the 2 people he needs to beat. I was surprised this even happened because I was like, you want Finn to be extricated from them. It very much feels like Finn's story right now is trying to tear down the Judgment Day and pull people out of it and pull them apart. And that's probably what they're going to do, which is like, okay, he was a founding member of it, but I don't see him moving on to other stuff. I would have liked a bit more wrestling.
Yeah.
You know, like this match was twice as long as their other one, but so much of it was just interference.
Mm-hmm.
The referee should have ejected them like way earlier than
Totally.
than she did. It was going on nonstop, but ultimately sets up the story. You know, we're getting there.
Liv later led a Judgment Day interview informing that they are fully focused on taking all the gold in WWE. Raquel grabbed the mic, daring the women's tag team champions to visit Raw and face them. Bayley and Lyra Valkyria interrupted, daring them to face them first. Morgan mocked them, saying families help each other win, and they should try doing that. Makes sense for Rodriguez and Perez to move back into that division, but man, did that feel like Bayley and Valkyria were going to be cannon fodder for them to get a title match on the back end. It's flummoxing to me why Bayley and Lyra are not being positioned for these titles. Maybe it happens by the end of the month in Europe where Bayley is insanely over. I could see that match at Clash in Italy, or maybe it's saved for SummerSlam. Let's hope. Regardless, a good segment to create a logical match for next week. And I know, Vintage, you agree with this. Roxanne Perez.
Gonna look good, but she's got me saying, hey now!
My heavens. Now, I forgot again to post the Stephanie Vaquer versus Liv Morgan poll, but I did do it Tuesday morning. So we will discuss this on Thursday's show. Roxy will go into Thursday as the number 1 contender for whomever emerges as champion. Again, if you want to vote and either agree with Silver King or agree with Vintage and attempt to override my call, which is going to take a significant majority to achieve, you can do so by joining our Slack. Find it across our social media channels at Getting Overcast. Vintage, anyway, this segment was good. And yes, Roxy, hey now.
Yes, good. And for people who don't remember, that's Liv Morgan's music video / entrance versus Catsuit Stephanie Vaquer. Yeah. This is Roxanne Perez, leopard print, number 1 contender coming out of it. This is ultimately good. Like, I am with you on the Bailey Lyra like concern part of it, but it was nice to hear somebody say we want the tag team championships. And so I was like, okay, that works for me.
Yeah, like to be fully focused on it and on the opposite brand too. Like it just worked in a real way as far as I was concerned. Penta and Javon Evans fought Ethan Page and Rusev. Page got the featured entrance after the break, which was cool. Penta had a tremendous counter sequence with him into a Penta driver. Evans leapfrogged to charging Rusev into the steel steps as Penta countered Twisted Grin with a backstabber. Javon followed with a hot tag, kip up cutter, and springboard clothesline. Page avoided a perfect moonsault but ate Red Dot before Penta tagged in for a tornado DDT. Evans took out Rusev with a tope suicida, with Page getting huge heat preventing him from hitting a announce table frog splash. Rusev Uranagi'd Penta into the announce table with Ethan distracting the referee. Page followed with a fisherman suplex for the surprise victory. Rusev had a huge smile on his face after the bell. He celebrated up to a point with Page. I did not expect that finish at all, especially with that move. I doubt that's going to be his finisher, considering he has multiple other signatures, including Twisted Grin. But for him to beat the Intercontinental Champion without a finisher, it tells you that WWE believes in him, and for good reason. He was excellent in this match, both as a wrestler and a character. He has a crazy high ceiling, and as we've talked about with all these debuting superstars, you gotta give them moments, and this was a moment for Page. Better for Penta to take the fall with a championship feud coming on the other end, rather than Javon to take it unnecessarily. And this match banged. All four of these guys were completely on point. Easily the match of the night. Borderline B+, A-, but I'm saying 4 stars. Good.
I really liked it. I think I would have had Javon take the pin just because Penta is the champion. But if you're trying to get to Page Penta and Penta retains, maybe you do it something like that. But this was fun. It was entertaining. Rusev and Page, I like their just kind of chemistry together as personalities. Rusev is always like just works well with a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And this was fun. It was good.
It's also just more meaningful for Page to beat the champion, just like JC Jane beat Charlotte Flair. It means more when you beat someone that's established to that degree. And Javon is not established. Adam Pearce introduced Sol Ruca for a contract signing, calling her a blue chip, can't miss prospect, which is really not a moniker WWE should be putting on anyone, especially someone who's still struggling with her mic work, as we saw here. I digress. And then, of course, Sol came out to brand new entrance music because WWE can never leave well enough alone. I'm not going to call it a downgrade. It had similar vibes and a new sing-along aspect that could definitely catch on in the future, except that part is only in the chorus, and the rest of it is extremely basic and boring. After one line of speaking, Becky Lynch interrupted, charging up to Pearce, angry that Ruca was taking her time and that he gave Io Sky an undeserved match last week. Sol cut her off, saying not everything is about her, and while she's accomplished so much, she's also exactly what people say, a rude, big-headed bitch. Ruca then did Lynch's "It's not just me" saying that line, signing the contract in front of her as fans chanted Ruca, which is kind of a weird chant. Sol said that she'd kick her ass and snatch her soul if she interrupted her again. Then she dodged a punch. Bex drilled Pearce in the face, leading to a distracting argument that allowed Ruca to catch Lynch with Soul Snatcher out of the corner. Unfortunately, she tripped on the bottom rope, and despite recovering, she only hit about, 3/4 of it. This was a perfectly set up segment. It was executed, I'd say, 80% of the way. Partially due to the missed finisher, partially due to Sol being clunky and scripted on the mic, which is precisely why I've said for months she needed another half year in NXT before getting called up. Still, this was good. Putting Sol against Becky to maximize cheers and create a massive debut feud that is really smart. Pearce getting punched was tremendous. I love the way he sold it, but didn't go down because it was a woman, not saying that she couldn't knock him down, but he's a large dude.
Yeah.
And the way
I disagreed with that. I thought he should have gone down.
Oh no, I like that it backed him up into the corner and stumbled him a little bit. I just enjoyed the way he did it, but fair enough. And the way they used that to create reason for Lynch to go into the corner to take Soul Snatcher in a non-wrestling setting, because how else are you going to set up that move when they're in a contract signing situation? That was really smart. Outside of the next woman we're about to talk about, WWE has done a great job featuring the new call-ups from the division to this point, Soul included, and this was certainly one of those situations.
Yeah, I mean, just like Ricky Saints going up with Cody, now you're having Soul come up with Becky. Like you had, you've already had Soul beat Bailey. You had Obafemi beat wrestle Cody well on Saturday Night's Main Events. Like they are really doing good things with these NXT call-ups. A couple of botches on the segment, kind of as we know, but it was pretty good overall. the setting up the Soul Snatcher was like too obvious because they just kept it on the hard cam so you could like see Becky move over. If we've got the camera angle from down on the ground looking up at the ring, then it kind of comes out of nowhere. But minor complaint, good segment.
Blake Monroe got another vignette where she stepped out of a tub in a towel, but was somehow in lingerie when she removed the towel. I may be wrong. I'm almost positive this was old footage from NXT that was put together and reused. Nothing fresh, didn't say anything of value, zero information about her character or perspective or goals. 2 weeks in a row of straight up nothing. Super lazy by WWE, confusing why someone would be introduced so blandly. And it's the exact opposite of what they've done with everyone else who has showed up on television. Now, maybe she has a great debut when she actually does appear on SmackDown. Is that next week? Is it next month? I don't know. But to this point, it has been a total botch with the Blake Monroe debut teases. It's worse than her teases were on NXT, where they had these similar segments, but they were longer, more drawn out, and you actually understood more about her, her character, her gimmick, the whole deal. I really, really dislike this. I'm giving it an ugly.
You know it, and I know it. This is bullshit.
You don't give a damn. And my problem is I care too much.
Veer is coming. Those are the vibes I'm getting right now. Stepping out of the bath and dropping the towel and wearing lingerie made absolutely no sense whatsoever. I'm not going to call it ugly just because there's not enough for me to be that upset about. But it just continues to put more pressure on her making a statement in her actual debut.
If it was new, fresh footage, I would have just gone bad. But because it was literally reused content, that's why I went that way. So I'm going to give you a bad on that. I'm going to say ugly. Obafemi's first open challenge looked to be answered by Akira Tozawa. Maxine Dupree was back with the Alpha Babes, who still have an Alpha Academy graphic on the Titantron. Tozawa got scared, though, so Otis took his place. And you know what that means.
Oh, we got two big meaty men bumping me tonight.
They did some cool ricochet shoulder tackles into the ropes before Femi destroyed Otis with a torpedo European uppercut.
Ah! Yes! I love that!
Seriously, the single best uppercut I have ever seen delivered in a professional wrestling ring. He also hit his toss slam. Oba then sized Otis up, and he determined, I can't just straight up lift this guy. So he put him on the second rope, sold the weight, and hit an insane fall from grace, only using his arms to beat him in 110 seconds.
Big meaty man slapping meat. That's what I want. This is Monday Night Meat. Where else can you see two beef planets like this colliding?
Beef planets, I like that.
Badly wanted this match to go 5 minutes just to see these guys bump meat longer, but the sequences that were delivered here got the job done and then some, particularly with Oba selling Otis's size and using his brain to determine how to finish him. Still a squash, but one that actually accomplished something, a top-tier squash, if such a thing exists. Plus,
He don't want no water. He don't want no bread. All he wants is meat.
and I love that the crowds are still about Otis and Tozawa after all this time. They should probably get a transitional tag team run at some point, some year. 4 slabs of beef, could have been 5 with more time. An easy good.
Definite good. Might be up there for big meaty moment of the year. Just because of that. Yeah, just because of that European uppercut in the sense that the timing was a little bit off and he just straight hit him and knocked it. He didn't literally uppercut him, but that was a real thump in a way you don't often get in WWE because Otis was, I don't know if whoever dove too soon or whatever, didn't have enough time to fully sell it basically. And so ultimately good because we got there. But my God, when the Alpha Academy music hit for the first Obafemi challenge, I was not happy. When Tozawa was standing up to him, I couldn't believe what I was watching.
Yeah.
Then we got Otis. I said, okay, there's something they could do out of this, and they did. And so ultimately it comes around to a good. But Otis, delivers. He delivers when they give him chances, and he doesn't get a lot of chances, but he usually does more than you would expect in many given situations. But let's do a better one for week 2 of this challenge.
That's the thing. It's
continues.
It's going to continue. The question is does Tozawa gain confidence and stand up for his guy because he feels like he has to? And if so, it could work, but it needs to be a situation where Oba is ragdolling him, throws him, does the Javon Evans spot, throws him out of the ring into the announce table, just ejects him. Like, you'd have to do something like that. They only have so many wrestlers. So, like, if you're going to do the open challenge for 4 weeks, let's say, I mean, who are you going to use, right?
Well, also, like, this is the thing with putting Oba over Brock so dominant and, like, kind of calling out Roman Reigns afterward. It's like, there's not many more places you can really go to, like, keep people engaged and interested. Why isn't Oba going after Roman right now? Like, why is he doing it's Tozawa Otis? Like, you shot him right to the top.
Yeah.
Where he almost feels like a special attraction all of a sudden, but he's got to get reps and you don't have house shows.
I don't blame them though. Like, they had to put him over Brock Lesnar and they really had to do that match. And now that we know it was Brock Lesnar's retirement match, or at least it seems like it was, like, you had to do those things. And you can't get this guy who just debuted on the main roster and and you could, but it'd be really risky to rocket ship him to the World Heavyweight Championship and beat Roman Reigns, this guy, your number one established guy, right away. So, like, I don't know, man. Everything you're saying is correct. I don't think they're doing anything wrong, though. I think they're doing the best they can, is what I'm saying.
I saw something. Brock Lesnar never won a championship in WWE that was not a world championship. And I wonder, like, can you give Oba an IC US title run, or is he already bigger than that?
You definitely can, because you can always have him lose it in a multi-man match.
Yeah, but just those are the things where it's like, suddenly what feels big enough for Oba Femi, and he just got here.
You can also give him a tag team title run too. He befriends someone backstage.
A what?
Tag team title run. You could.
What's that?
He befriends someone backstage. They team up. They win on their first go around. It's meant to be a throwaway match. They surprisingly win. The other person is the one who drops the title. He goes after them and turns on them. There's, like, you can definitely do stuff with him around championships that are not the world title, but I would bet he doesn't win a title in WWE until it's a world championship. I think that's the direction they're going.
Maybe.
Joe Hendry fought Austin Theory. Paul Heyman backstage refused to let Logan Paul fight in this match because he was so angry that he would get himself suspended. Theory and Braun Breaker calmed him down, promising they would get taken out one by one. Hendry had the crowd singing a Can We Fire Logan Paul song coming back from the break, so Paul ran out infuriated just like last week, though Theory was able to hold him back from attacking. Hendry was up on Theory for most of their short time together until Logan purposefully forced a DQ for a 2-on-1 attack. The Street Profits were somehow not prepared for this inevitability, but they did eventually run out to clear the deck. As they were going for their finisher, Braun Breaker saved his guys, tossing Montez Ford over the ropes like a ragdoll and taking Angelo Dawkins' head off with a clothesline. That led to a Seth Rollins attack that we'll go over in a little bit. Ford, for some reason, distracted Rollins at the end with an impressive tope over the ring post outside. Hendry was shockingly over before and during this match. I can continue to believe his 15 minutes are going to be up any day now. It's clearly not happening, at least not during his first month on the main roster. Disappointing for them not to see the match through. We've seen the same thing through with Vision, Hendry, and the Profits now for 3 weeks in a row. Why can't Theory get a win using the numbers game at the end of a real match before doing the exact same finish? It gets a good for Hendry's performance, Rollins' save, and how it all tied together. But this was closer to a borderline than it probably should have been if it was booked a little bit better.
Yeah, like the Fire Logan Paul song, like, is over. And I was like, really, we're going back to that again? But people were into it. And while we were recording, they released like an official music video for it or something like that. So ultimately, like, setting up six mans, and it's, you know, the Profits having to make the save every single show is a bit repetitive, but, you know, for like a mid-card mostly type of thing, people were into it. I'll give it a like good.
By the way, Theory continues to speak with Maxine Dupree in the background of segments. It happened again this week. Something to keep an eye on. Rollins and Ford got heated backstage given the finish to the segment. Seth yelled back that they're arguing over minor details when they're all on the same side fighting the Vision. Rollins told Ford they need to stay out of each other's way. This was the most agency that Montez has been given in a long time. It's a bit strange to me that he's so antagonistic to Seth for no real reason, and seeing them together, it has me longing for the booking concept of Rollins, Ford, and Theory being the counter group to the Vision before Breaker and Bronson Reed both got injured. But yeah, I'm into this angst between them. I hope it develops into something more good.
Yeah, fine enough. Good.
Women's Tag Team Championship, Brie Bella and Paige against Irresistible Forces. Off the top, there was no build to this match. Granted, it is not abnormal for champions who lose in a multi-team match to get a rematch, but this was literally booked and announced for the show without a single interaction having occurred, like the Forces demanding the match last week or on social media, for example. Brie and Paige said they would worry about Influence's recent antics another time, as they had to focus on the Forces. Again, no reasoning provided. The Forces later said what I did about not being pinned in the four-way, promising to end the Nostalgia Tour. Production botched the champion's entrance, which was a harbinger of what was to come. I've determined that the least believable thing in wrestling is when Brie plays to the crowd. It is impossible to buy that she's actually energized and passionate. The champions hit Paige Turner and Bella Buster on Lash Legend. Paige prevented Annihilator by knocking out Nia Jax's legs, allowing Paige to catch her in a tight fold-over pinning combination to retain the titles. I didn't mind the actual finish. The moment of Brie and Paige winning the titles at WrestleMania, that was fine, even if it was not what we wanted, which was Bayley and Lyra getting their deserved moment. However, this division is now in the total dumps from a match quality standpoint with them as champions. Paige seems to be working decently well on her own, but that duo against a slow-moving Forces team made for a real rough pairing, a rough segment, and a seemingly aimless division. They got to take the titles off of them. This was a D-level match, totally bad, borderline ugly. Please get the titles off these ladies as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'm going ugly. What happened to the women's tag team division? I loved. And like what the Forces were when they started to just like, now it's like, oh, this like little trick from Brie will help them pin her. And it's like, guys, this isn't a real team. We know nothing of their real relationship between Brie and Paige unless you know the total Divas canon.
Right.
Like there's been nothing to build them up as a team. Barely even giving us Paige's full story, like coming back.
Right.
It's all just like by the numbers type of stuff and very frustrating. Like if you're going to do it, do it. Tell us Paige is one of the greatest of all time and like show us the history and like lean into the have her cut a great promo in front of the crowd. But it's like just not like, happy to be back. And then match. It felt like, honestly, that finish felt like Diva era's wrestling.
0.0.
0.0, Mr. Blutarski.
That is one big pile of shit.
Yeah, you nailed it. It was like a Divas. I didn't mind the finish because that can always happen with a larger woman. The match felt like a Divas era match. And to your point, they haven't botched it because they can still do it at any time. But bringing Paige back and not having her tell her story of why she's back in WWE, what her goals are, all of that, it's a miss. It's probably because of what she got put in, which was not the original plan. But regardless, take a little time on your show. You have 3 hours every Friday night. Take 90 seconds to 2 minutes and allow Paige to do a sit-down interview or just speak in the ring, because she's a decent promo, about why she's back in WWE, what her goals are, and where she's been for so long. WWE Tag Team Championship, Damian Priest and R-Truth defending against Fraxium. R-Truth backstage was talking to Fraxium, thinking they were Los Americanos. Priest came through, assuming Truth was about to give away another title shot, saying a team like Fraxium at least actually deserves it. So the challengers ran with it, and Truth turned the tables on Priest, saying he said not to just give away opportunities, so why did he just do that? Axiom got bell clapped, took a massive forearm to the face, countering Razor's Edge into most of a Hurricanrana, before the champions did a walk-away avoidance of Stereotope Suicida charges. Nathan Frazier took a flatliner, avoided a chokeslam, and ate the 5 moves of doom. Fraxium then went on their barrage of topes with a top rope ringside moonsault chaser. They landed the Capiluta Inferno finisher, but Priest booted Axiom into Frazier for the broken fall, pounced the former out of the ring, hit South of Heaven on Frazier, and Razor's Edge on Axiom to retain. Tala attacked after the bell, wiping the mat with all 4 guys and chokeslamming Priest as the exclamation point. Sokoa was with him. This got solid time, more than I expected. Both the match and Fraxium were better for it, even if the challengers didn't get that much offense. It was not the best matchup for 2 speed demons to show their skill against a 54-year-old and a 6'5" lumbering big man, but again, they got featured, they got time. It's a step in the right direction. Unfortunately, that doesn't change that this was another undeserved title match, and the tag team champions appear to be stuck in this MFT vortex still. I mean, we thought we were out of it, but then they attacked here. At the same time, 3 of the top 5 teams in this division are either out of the company or on Raw, so the division hardly exists anyway. So because of the context, I'm going to give it a light good for the work, the time, and featuring of Fraxium. Let's see if it continues. It's a conditional light good.
Yeah, light good, just because I don't know what else they can do. Yeah.
The Miz and Kit Wilson backstage were scheming about how to prevent Danhausen from disappearing so they could catch him. They left bait, a booby-trapped briefcase filled with free human monies, but when Danhausen opened it, he was able to take 4 stacks and walk off. Of course, when Miz checked what went wrong, he got powder keg to the face. Cartoon logic. Danhausen later drove his mobile down to the ring, saying the $40,000 that he grabbed was just $400, so he turned it into merchandise. Unintended but hysterical to me, he threw out 5 t-shirts, which is like $200 these days. So it was pretty close. Miz came out depressed, admitting to the reality of his curse, and therefore he agreed to become Danhausen's mentor and officially create Mizhausen. Kit interrupted. He tried to talk some sense into him. Miz explained how Danhausen has already mastered his method, and Wilson is not even in his league. They both extended their hands, forcing Miz to choose. He played the long game, teasing the fans, before ultimately choosing Danhausen to a big pop. But he, of course, immediately double-crossed him. He was preparing a curse for Wilson, leading to a 2-on-1 beatdown, skull-crushing finale, and Men Cry 2, which is Wilson's twisting elbow drop. Great finisher name, by the way. Danhausen later found Aldis and demanded a match, so Aldis gave him a tag team bout at Backlash if he can find a partner. Thought a babyface was going to save Danhausen here. I was cool with him actually catching a beating for once. It was the antithesis of most of his segments to this point, where he always comes out on top, and solid work by Miz, getting the fans believing that they were going to get something they wanted, only to pull it away from them at the last minute. This didn't land for my taste, so I'm only at a light good, especially since giving them a match at Backlash to me is completely nonsensical, but I understand why so many people loved it.
Yeah, look, you're doing a mystery going into a Danhausen thing. It creates just instant drama. Who's it going to be? It doesn't feel obvious just based on his interactions so far, but I don't want this on Backlash over other things, but I understand doing it.
If this was the 6th match on Backlash, it would be fine.
Right.
But it's the 5th. And that's the problem. Now, before I get into the final part of this good, bad, and ugly, I do need to let everyone know that the AAA show from this past Saturday was exceptionally good. It's 1 hour. It's on YouTube. If you use a VPN, choose Albania as your country. You can skip all the ads. My point is, you need to see this episode of AAA. The rest of it, there were 4 total segments, 3 segments we will discuss this Thursday on the NXT and AEW show. We don't have time to do it here. However, one of the segments directly influenced another segment on Raw, and that we need to cover. So if you haven't watched it, you can pause and watch it, or you can listen to my breakdown and then watch it on the back end. El Grande Americano y El Grande Americano Original held a Máscara contra Máscara contract signing in the main event of AAA last Saturday. They were separated by 8 security guards after the primary announcement for the segment. Original handed a letter over to his lawyer, which said the match will only happen, from his lawyer, which said the match will only happen if El Grande abides by a no-touch clause until the match, with the penalty being he would lose his mask without competition. El Grande signed, but after security got sent away from the ring, Original revealed a second condition. El Grande's real-life girlfriend and AAA announcer had to leave. I'm guessing a temporary firing until after the match is over. She cut a great quick promo back at him, but when Original left the ring, the Creed brothers attacked El Grande from behind, did a double slam through a table, and celebrated with an American flag. Los Americanos then chased them away to end the segment. This was done extremely well. It was tough for an English speaker to be 100% invested, because while he does well with slow segments, Rey Mysterio really struggled keeping up the exact translation live. Hardly his fault. He's not a professional in that way. It was fun how many tropes were shoved into this one segment. Heel with not 1 but 2 stipulations involving a significant other. I believe her name is Andrea. Outsmarting the babyface with returning heel partners. Just great scumbag heel shit, especially for a masquerading foreigner in this case. OG Americano has been an incredible heel. He's incapacitated a popular LGBTQ performer, pulled a disabled person over a barricade, stolen a mask, got a beloved woman fired, almost attacked a woman another time. It's why him not being a full heel on Raw is so frustrating, because if the AAA storyline was truly translated, it would be 60 to 70% as hot in the United States as it in Mexico. Instead, it's cared about 25% as much. So that's everything that happened in AAA. Let me now tell you what happened on Raw and why it frustrated me so much. El Grande and Los Americanos fought Original and Los Americanos Hermanos. The Creeds were in masks despite being maskless in AAA. Original said the no contact rule only applies in Mexico, and then he literally stated that the Creeds were taught well by Chad Gable, which is why they're partnering with him. I was fucking floored by this setup. The masks were entirely unnecessary and dumb, especially since they were announced as Julio Iberto Credo. Mentioning Gable was all kinds of stupid when his name has not been uttered in months. And then pulling a no contact clause to make an unnecessary match on Raw when there are plenty of other wrestlers, or they could have done 2-on-2 with the Americanos and the Hermanos. I was just stunned at how poor and dumb the booking was to make this match. Yes, they explained it. Yes, it is fine to have a no-touch clause outside of regulation matches, but allow people to fight in sanctioned bouts. I get all of that in theory. However, it came across like WWE was thumbing its nose at what was booked in AAA, considering it was yet another week where the greatness from AAA was not shown as a video package to give fans live in attendance and watching from home a reason to not only properly align with the talent, but care more about the match. Why are they not putting more effort into this? That was my question. On to the match. Julio Iberto landed a power and glory style combination. El Grande caught Original with an unloaded flying headbutt. Bravo landed a deep splash for a false finish. Original responded with Chaos Theory. And as El Grande got slammed into the barricade, Original hit a top rope headbutt for the win. The action was great. The Creeds moved around well, better than they had in some time. But overall, I have to say bad for the lack of logic and effort. Incredibly frustrating stuff considering how amazing this has been and how amazing it hit 48 hours earlier in Mexico. On Raw, they literally just said, here's a bunch of guys who are fighting in AAA. Oh, and you'll want to watch their match in 25 days. Why do I want to watch their match in 25 days? In fact, why was this even on Raw that far out if you're not going to develop it? Considering Raw was less than 2 hours and 20 minutes, why was there not time for a video recap of what's been happening down in Mexico that fans are loving to catch everyone else up to speed? If you are trying to grow that brand and get attention on this storyline, why are you not making that simple effort so that fans tune in, not just on May 30th, but the next 3 weeks? Don't you want them watching every single episode and then seeing the big decisive battle? So the match was solid. I'm glad they got on screen. It's great that the Creeds are back, but everything surrounding this pissed me off. I'm giving it a bad, but I just feel like I'm probably closer to an ugly how pissed off I am.
That is an incredible amount of time and talking and background you did for something that is bottom of the card on Raw on our Backlash.
But it's the number one story in AAA. Number one.
But here's the thing. Like, I don't watch AAA. Most people watching Raw don't. I do wonder at what point do people start calling for The Undertaker to become the booker?
You're making my point, though. You're making my point. You don't watch it. People on Raw don't. Yet they're putting this match on screen and not giving the background necessary to convince you and other people to watch the product.
Look, we got to get to Backlash. We do not need to go along in this.
Okay, fine, but I'm making my point.
I'm going to give it a bad 2 for all the reasons that you said, but they're doing a good job in AAA, and maybe Undertaker should be the booker for WWE.
One other quick note on this match. It was specifically referred to as a trios match, both verbally and in graphics. I do not believe that term has ever been used in WWE before. They always say 6-man tag.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, so I found that to be odd, random, and interesting. But as you mentioned, we do still have the WWE Backlash Ultimate Preview to get to in this show. Has gone damn long, but with damn good content. That's what we do here at the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Let's move into the WWE Backlash Ultimate Preview. There's only 5 matches on this card, one of which, as I mentioned, feels like a throwaway in addition to a John Cena appearance. Only 2 of the 11 titles are being defended, which is stunning, but not totally surprising, as Backlash is the first of 3 main roster premium events being held before the month is out. Backlash on Saturday, May 9th, Saturday night's main event on May 23rd, and then Clash in Italy 1 week later on Sunday, May 31st. And there's a 4th if you include AAA, which is holding Noche de los Grandes the Saturday night prior. Also, the first hour of Backlash is going to air simulcast on ESPN2, which not only tells you that it worked for WrestleMania in ESPN's eyes, but that they badly need content during these down months. I'll try to find out if this is permanent or just temporary through August. That's the setup for Backlash Vintage. Any thoughts on that?
My reaction to the Backlash on ESPN part was not exactly the same. I don't know the reasons. Like, part of me thinks they're not getting enough people watching the WWE content, so they're going to put more of it on this as a tease to get more people to sign up for the ESPN app. I might be wrong, but that was just my reaction to it when it happened. But that's a lot of shows in a short amount of time.
It is indeed, and we'll find out if that's just a May thing or if that's going to happen all summer like it did last year and really pissed us off. Let's get to the 5 matches on this card. We have Danhausen and a mystery partner who I believe Michael Cole said is someone who loves money. That was his hint or whatever, against The Miz and Kit Wilson. I legitimately do not know who's going to partner with him. I kind of just assumed it was going to be Royce Keys initially. They're on SmackDown primarily. It's a SmackDown feud. Keys hasn't been really on a premium live event. He's a good guy. Why not? But I have no idea who it's going to be. We've already covered the lead up to this. Danhausen and his partner almost certainly are going to win unless that partner is a low carder, in which case then I would go with Miz and Wilson. But no, the pick is Danhausen and his partner.
John Cena. No, probably not. I'm going to go Danhausen wins as well.
United States Championship, Trick Williams defending against Sami Zayn. We already went over the build for this as well with the Gingerbread Man. We don't know what's going to happen in the funeral segment this coming Friday, so there's only so much that we can pontificate going forward. I would be absolutely floored. I mean, they already took the title unnecessarily off of Carmelo Hayes. If they did that, put it on Zayn so he could be a transitional champion just to switch it back. Cannot imagine. Trick retains the United States Championship, and coming out of this is a full-fledged babyface.
Yes, Trick wins. We still have the funeral to happen before this match, so we'll see if anything happens there. But I can't see a title change. Trick Williams is the pick.
By the way, it says a lot that these are the 2 undercard matches. They're both SmackDown, and the 3 big matches on the show are all Raw. It just tells you how much stronger the booking is on Monday night compared to Friday, but let's go ahead and get to that. Io Sky versus Asuka. They had a pre-taped, cinematically lit sit-down on Raw. Io said she's avoided fighting her senpai for years because she looked up to her and loved her, yet while she still respects her, she's changed, and she has to be taken down. Asuka said Io wanting to fight her is disrespectful, and she doesn't recognize the woman in front of her. She said Io is her biggest disappointment, and she's going to cut her out of her life for good. Io said she's ready for Asuka, but when they leaned into each other to really increase that intensity, Asuka sprayed blue mist all over Sky, sending her into hysterics as the segment ended. Considering they were speaking in their native tongue and moving on from the Kairi Sane part of the story, I'm surprised more was not said here to develop the issues in their relationship away from Kairi and create a stronger story for this match. The segment still delivered. You could feel the tension between them. Asuka looked like an absolute badass. The mist at the end was a surprise, but it was an A- when an A+ was undoubtedly possible considering the setup. I came out of this looking at Asuka in her getup with the mist leaning back in the chair. I'm like, this woman is a Gotham supervillain. She's legitimately amazing as a heel. We all know that Io is a great babyface, but this version of Asuka dressed up with the makeup and the mist, holy crap, she is top tier. I loved the go home, even if I thought it could have been better.
Yeah, I liked it. It was good. It just feels like they've pivoted, like they've mentioned it before, but they've had to pivot the story from Kairi to I trained you and now you've turned your back on me. I don't fully know that story other than just them kind of telling us mostly in the last couple of weeks. I don't know if there's photos of them together, old video you could find, but I would have loved some more proof that they are what they say they are. I don't even know if in real life if they are.
No, they are. I mean, I don't think she was her primary trainer, but they were tag team partners. You've heard Michael Cole say it a million times. Triple Tails with Io's sister and Asuka, they were all together as a team. So I disagree with you. That has been covered extensively. The problem is it was not the linchpin for the story. The linchpin for the story was Io extricating Kairi away from Asuka. The secondary part of the story was their mentor-mentee relationship, which is because Asuka was also a mentor to Kairi. So that's why Io was saving Kairi. So it works. And I disagree that we need to know much more about that. I just think they should have gone deeper into it here because they pulled the linchpin out of the story, is what I'm saying.
Well, it just feels like they need to, you do the teacher versus student story when the student is breaking away. What is Io actually fighting for here? She's been away from Asuka. She's made a career without Asuka. They're just back together now because of Kairi, and now we have to change the story. This is the problem with cutting Kairi when they did. They've done the best they can.
It's the problem with not running the women's tag team match at WrestleMania that we should have gotten, splitting Rhea Ripley off. I mean, we've had that conversation so many times. That was the match to do, and then once that match was over, then you split them, and you have Io take out her, senpai, one-on-one, end the feud, and then move on. That's the way it should have gone. Of course, it's not the way it did go. This is going to be, the first time ever that two Japanese wrestlers will fight in a singles match during a WWE Premium Live event. It's really cool. It's the second
female or
ever
any.
It's the second ever singles match between Io and Asuka, and it's the first non-title women's singles match on an intergender main roster pay-per-view since WrestleMania 41. This deserved the WrestleMania 42 stage. I've said it ad nauseum on this podcast, but if they get a complete match, we're talking minimum 18 minutes, but really 20 to 25 minutes. That is what they deserve. Perhaps it's going to wind up being acceptable and remembered well. Io obviously needs to win. She's more over. She's younger. She's a legitimate top tier main event champion. Asuka can be too. And I would love for Asuka to win one of the world titles again and be a heel champion. But Io is way too over right now. And she had been knocked down too many pegs going into WrestleMania to come out of this with an L. Io Sky beats her senpai, Asuka.
There is no chance they're getting 25 minutes in this match.
Why?
They should.
There's a throwaway on the card and then 4 other matches.
Because this is going to be a 5-match card on a 3-hour show that's also going to include a history-making John Cena segment.
Let me tell you this before you continue with that take. There's going to be 2 matches on hour 1, which is going to air on ESPN, which means there's 3 matches for the remaining 2 hours plus Cena. I think they're going to have more than enough time. I think they're going to get time. I would bet on them having enough time.
I wonder the last time a non-Rumble Chamber Money in the Bank WrestleMania main event got 25 minutes in WWE.
Involving the women, you mean?
Just involving anybody. That's not a gimmick match or a main event.
Oh, they've definitely had long matches like that.
That's a long time, especially in today's WWE.
25 for them. 25 is long. 20 is not. 20 is like what it should be.
I would love for them to come out of that Mania with a statement of this is going to be a heavy wrestling show and give us time for all of these and do something with it. Yeah. I would love for them to say that. I'm just not going to believe it until I see it.
Or show it. You don't even have to say it. You have to show it.
Yes. The pick is the pick is Io because I assume this is going to be the end of the feud. Like Kyrie's gone. They can't do that.
Agreed.
We're going to get out of this. And if you're going to get out of it, you end it with the student beating the teacher, the babyface winning, and Io wins.
While we were taping the show, I just wanted to clarify, WWE has officially announced that Roman Reigns will compete at Clash in Italy. So he is going to be on every single Raw episode in the month of May and both Backlash and Clash in Italy, but of course missing Saturday night's main event, which makes total sense. Seth Rollins versus Braun Breaker. Rollins opened Raw with a stare down of Reigns in gorilla position, leading to an understandable massive pop. Again, the originally planned main event for night 2 of WrestleMania 42. Are they going to do it at SummerSlam? Are they going to do it at WrestleMania 43? We will find out. Once he actually entered, he got attacked from behind by Breaker, who dropped him headfirst into the corner of the barricade before tossing around security and continuing to beat on Rollins, driving him into the steel steps, and then cutting him in half with a spear in the middle of the ring. His best effort since returning, his best spear. Fans chanted one more time because they always do. Breaker got booed nonetheless. Rollins, sweating and injured backstage, confirmed he'd be good for the match, warning Braun that he will regret not finishing the job. Braun later made fun of Seth, saying he sounds like a duck, but Paul Heyman was annoyed that he left him breathing. Rollins got retribution on Breaker at the end of the aforementioned Vision Hendry Prophet segment. He beat him from pillar to post until Ford, again, for some reason, distracted him by running at Seth for a tope over the ring post into everyone else. That gave Rollins the inability, I guess, to pay attention to what was happening with Breaker, left him prone, took another spear to end the segment. Really high energy start to the show, combined with the ladder, presumably a method for giving Rollins a potential excuse for a loss in match 1 of what's most likely going to be a series of some kind. I presume he'll have his ribs taped heavily, selling the injury going into the match. Considering they crushed the promo battle last week, there wasn't much more they needed to do from a storyline standpoint. It's great how Breaker looks like a killer when he attacks. Also, I'm glad WWE is starting to run Vision locker room segments like they used to with the Bloodline, and they currently do with the Judgment Day. It can only help. I would call this a very successful go-home, all things considered. It had me just as excited for the match as I was before the show, not more excited coming out of the show. So since we've already gone over Rollins and the Vision Breaker aspect of all of this on this show and last week as well, Vintage, who do you have coming out of Backlash winning this match?
I think it's got to be Braun Breaker for, like you said, multiple matches probably from these two. It's Braun's first match back. Seth just came back and just lost, so he can take another loss. It's okay. we're going to finally get into the story they were trying to tell before Braun got hurt and that whole thing. So should be good. I think Braun wins, maybe hits him with a bunch of, like, we got to really get Seth like low before he starts to climb back up to overtake Braun Breaker.
Yeah, completely agree. This needs to be a Breaker when it's Backlash too. You know, if you want to rematch this at Clash in Italy and have Rollins win there, or somehow save it a little bit further out, you can do that. There's opportunities for WWE there, but Breaker, I'm almost positive, is winning this match and certainly needs to win the first one, especially when you consider that Rollins doesn't have anyone who has his back right now. Breaker has the entirety of the Vision. Rollins is at odds with the Profits, and Hendry he hasn't even really interacted with outside of standing near him backstage. So this could be a 3-on-1 situation. Even more reason for Rollins to lose. That brings us to the main event, World Heavyweight Championship, Roman Reigns defending against Jacob Fatu. Reigns stormed into the arena at the open of Raw, charging through gorilla position on his way to the ring, only to get stopped by Pierce, who informed him that Fatu had yet to arrive. Michael Cole and Corey Graves on commentary provided a full camera rundown of the Tongan death grip, which is precisely what I said WWE needed to do on last week's episode. So,
thank you!
At the same time, a video package actually showing Haku utilizing the move and destroying people would have been way better. Still, good move. Later backstage, the Usos walked into a Reigns locker room, not a Bloodline locker room, mind you, saying they were only there in case something pops off in the contract signing. Jay said they respect what Jacob has done, but the Bloodline has been drawn. The locker room deal bothered me for precisely the reason I just mentioned. So inconsistent with how the relationship is supposed to be presented now. It used to be a Bloodline locker room when they were being held down by Reigns, but now it's Roman's room when they're equal. Isn't that a little bit off?
Yes, and it goes back to what I said earlier about them just acting like Roman's lackeys, and it doesn't look good for them.
Reigns was shown arguing with Pierce about the contract backstage during a look-in that did not have any audio. The signing was the main event of Raw. Roman was back at the head of the table, fans acknowledging and loudly chanting for him. Reigns told Fatu that's love and respect that he's earned from grinding in WWE longer than Jacob's been trying to find himself a career. Roman demanded respect as he's opened the door for Solo and effectively Jacob. He said their family needs to have honor and a system of conduct, and the Tongan death grip breached that. They are family in a wrestling ring, not outnumbered 8-on-1 in a bar at 3 a.m. Fatu said Reigns has got it wrong. He is desperate. His back is against the wall. He has no choice but to take Roman out, taking the title and the riches that come with it. He promised to put a chokehold on the game and squeeze every dollar out of WWE, just as it has done to the Anoa'i family for decades. Reigns reminded that he's the one who's been providing for the entire family generation after generation, and while they're equals in their family, sharing the same blood, Jacob is beneath him in the ring. Fatu again attacked him with the Tongan death grip, but Reigns was ready for him, slamming a desk chair into his body. Jacob locked it back in. Roman again fought out with 10 punches in the corner, only for Fatu to lock it in twice more, with Pierce trying and failing to separate them. So Fatu used the grip and kind of did like a Tongan death grip chokeslam of Reigns onto the table. I say onto because he did not hit the middle. It flipped and then fell on him, and Fatu pushed it. Ultimately, Jacob signed the contract as Roman convulsed on the ground. The crowd went from booing Fatu during the attack wave to half the crowd at least chanting for him when it all ended. That chanting clearly means the crowd sees him as a face tweener, not a heel tweener, which is a huge counter to the end of Raw last week after he got loud face cheers on SmackDown, as we talked about earlier. However, just like last week, WWE's booking of Fatu in this main event segment was putting him on the heel side of the tweener role. So as in my comparison to Becky Lynch turning on Charlotte Flair being an attempted heel turn that didn't work, this comes across similarly, though far less extreme. It's kind of a shame that WWE is booking him this way because Reigns is so much better as a heel. I hate that Roman is getting cheered in this scenario. He is such a douchebag, so egotistical, such a stuck-up character. It should be Jacob as a full face and Roman as a full heel, but they're both tweeners, and the crowd is cheering both of them. Anyway, excellent segment. Reigns was great on the mic. Fatu continues his stretch of really strong promos, 3 or 4 in a row, all of his best in WWE during this feud. The Tongan death grip being explained earlier, sold by Reigns in his speech, and then executed out of desperation multiple times to end the show. It completely put over the move, and it was precisely why commentary did such a shit job last week of selling the segment. The Tongan death grip chokeslam, that should be Fatu's like double finisher whenever he goes on a crazy title run. It was a killer go home. Both guys were excellent. And this feud is white hot for Backlash. The only issue is the Usos, again, not showing up. They said earlier they would be there if needed. They were needed. They weren't there. That was really inconsistent. Other than that, I thought they knocked this out of the park.
I not as much. I thought this was just like okay. I thought Roman lost his place a few times in the promo and kind of like didn't know where he was going or didn't know what he wanted to say next. And some of his descriptions of the Tongan death grip, talking about like fighting in a bar or something like that, was kind of weird. But when they started fighting each other, it was good. Like, to me, it's just like kind of a by the numbers contract signing, which is like, okay, you know, like they said some things. There wasn't anything more to really add that hadn't already been said. And then they fought. So like, it was okay.
I feel like you're diminishing the point of them getting the Tongan death grip over. And
no, it is, and we've talked about that on the show already. But yes,
that was a huge part of this. Reigns, like, it was disrespectful for you. It's one thing for you to want to fight me and take my money and lead the family. It's another for you to pull out that move.
Right, but that's also kind of like a weird go home point to make. You know, like at the end of the feud, just don't. You know what they could do to get the move over? Have a loud screeching noise play over the speakers while the lights flash while you've got it in there, and just kind of do the fiend.
I was making sure. I was just like double and triple checking as you were speaking that you were being sarcastic and joking, because I was like, what the hell? Who is my co-host on this show? Like, what is happening right now?
We'll run the fiend back again. But yes, they did a good job putting the move over, but like there's, you know, everything that Jacob needs to say, he said in the very first promo. And, you know, it's only been 3 weeks, so there's not much more to do. So it was good. It didn't like make me any more or less excited for it, because I was already like pretty into it. And
yeah,
they did a good job taking that home.
Yeah, for me, maybe it was just more that they hit the notes I wanted them to hit, and that's why I found it more successful than you did. I'm going to speak for you briefly. We're both expecting Roman Reigns to retain the title, correct?
Yes.
So if I had the book, and I know some of you will groan when I say this, I believe Fatu needs to chase for a while. He surprisingly has shown some Stone Cold Steve Austin potential here. I'm not saying he's going to be Stone Cold, but the way he spoke about WWE using and like abusing his family, squeezing every dollar out of them, the way he stood up to his cousin, it was extremely anti-authority. You can't stop or silence me. DTA, don't trust anyone. All that stuff reminds me of the Austin anti-hero archetype. There is money utilizing Jacob in that role. And you know what? Him going over Golden Boy Cody might be even better than Roman with that kind of alignment. But then you run the risk of the crowd turning even more on Rhodes, which WWE does not want to do, I presume. So I don't know, man. Did you get any similar vibes? Do you think Jacob can, again, I'm not saying be Stone Cold Steve Austin, but hold a role like that, where he's this anti-authority, stands up to his family, stands up to the company. He's out for himself, going to take whatever is his, and you're either with me or you're against me type of character?
So I go, ever since Jacob Fatu debuted, really, I keep going back and forth on how I feel about him.
Okay.
He came in with a lot of hype from you and other people who knew of his history and thought he could be a main eventer. Mm-hmm. And there are times when I see it, like the first promo he cut against Roman. And then there are other times where not as much. And so I think he's still finding his WWE character. Mm-hmm. And he's done a little bit of work outside of family stuff, like the Drew stuff. You know, there's been a couple things here and there. But it has been very Bloodline 2.0 heavy. So before I'm like in on him, mm-hmm. I need to kind of see him in a variety of situations. I think WWE putting him on SportsCenter, as we mentioned here, like,
yeah,
I think they see the potential. I don't think they're there yet, but I think they see the idea that he could get there. And he's making progress toward that.
Yeah, I'd like to see, you know, I'm not one who's going to watch all the, you know, WWE talent on ESPN. I'd like to watch that because I'm extremely curious how he handled himself, how he spoke. Was he selling a character? Was he just being Jacob Fatu? Like, I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, I couldn't hear it, but I'll tell you, he was wearing sunglasses and he had his hair up.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
You know, better than better than like couldn't see his whole body, but like just a hoodie or something like that. Like he looked a little bit more presentable.
Yeah, that's cool. So we both agree that Roman Reigns is going to retain the title here. I guess the only other thing we can project to make this more of a full Ultimate preview, do we expect this to be rematched at Clash in Italy?
I wouldn't have thought when it started, like when they first started this, I thought we're just going to do a 1 month thing and move on, but get to Europe, have him wrestle. I thought we were going to go back to Roman wrestles one person every feud. He beats him and he moves on. He beats him and he moves on.
Yeah.
So
they could do that. They could do that because all of a sudden LA Knight is open. So he has issues with the Samoans, and he told Jay and Jimmy, hey, if you're back with Reigns, I have a problem. It seemed like he was going to do a short-term feud with Gunther. Gunther's now on SmackDown. They could potentially run back LA Knight in that spot. And that would be a big match for Clash in Italy, for sure.
I mean, I would love that. I'm an LA Knight guy, as everybody knows that. I would say, I think that ties into the question here, though, which is, do we think Roman wins clean, or is he going to win with Uso interference?
Man, that's so tough. If
WWE Uso interference, we're getting a rematch.
If WWE wants them to be heels again, Uso interference. I don't believe they want to take the first time that Roman Reigns is legitimately over as a babyface and just throw that away. I don't believe they want to do that. So I think it's going to be a situation where happenstance hurts Jacob, similar to what happened, unfortunately, with the Demon Finn Balor. Not like that, obviously, not as ridiculous as that. Vince McMahon is not booking this. But something similar happens. He trips, he falls. The referee maybe gets knocked out and Reigns does something that takes advantage of the situation. Let's say uses a weapon, maybe not a heel move, but something that's like opportunistic, like CM Punk did, and then retains the title. Jacob's like, that's not fair. But I got to tell you, I was going to answer my own question thinking a rematch was happening. But once I brought up LA Knight, like, I kind of feel like that might be the direction. I don't know.
I'm not going to, if I had to predict of those two options, I think Fatu is much more likely.
I agree.
Think we know that they love Jacob Fatu, and I think they're kind of still a little iffy on LA Knight, main event guy. Yeah. So I'm going to say Roman wins with some weirdness, and we do get a rematch. That's my guess.
Yeah,
I don't love it, but I think that's what they go with.
Yeah, I feel like the rematch makes sense, but like 4 more weeks of them going back and forth, man. And
that's the other thing too. Is like, that's also part of the Jacob Fatu stuff. Is like, where else can you go? Like CM Punk and Roman Reigns were able to sell 3 months of story.
Yeah.
And they have a lot more, they've got a unique history, and Punk's one of the best mic guys to ever do it. But that would be a test for Jacob.
Yeah.
Can you do enough to not just repeat the same stuff if we do this another month?
Can you sustain? Maybe he has to beat Jay to earn an opportunity, a second opportunity, something like that. They put barriers in front of him. Stipulation match. They have to go back and forth deciding what that is. Uso's getting up on him. Maybe Royce Keys gets his back. Tag team match. There's some options there. There really are. But they're going to have to work to make it really entertaining on the back of Backlash. Vintage.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes, but I kind of would rather not. Move on to something else.
I would prefer not. Completely agree. Vintage, as always, when we wrap up these Ultimate previews, you have the opportunity to go first and provide your pre-show expectation grade. And a reminder for everyone listening, you can vote in our pre-show and post-show polls for WWE Backlash and every other premium live event and special in WWE this month. You can do it by following us on social media at Getting Overcast. We will post those polls a couple hours before and immediately after those shows. Vintage, what is your pre-show expectation grade for the 2026 edition of WWE Backlash?
B+.
Man, we're always
I think we're going to have some good wrestling. I think we're not going to have we got 2 title matches, which is good, but I don't think either are going to be changed. Danhausen thing could be funny. And the other 4 matches could be really good matches, but there's not enough to put it over into the A range for me. Like, this is like a good B-level pay-per-view.
Yeah, it's a solid card, all things considered. The top 3 matches have ridiculous potential, but the top 2, both of them involving the men, feel like they're just the first of many. And generally, you don't get the big blow-off moment that leads to them being incredible matches. So if those are the first of many, we only have 1 feud potentially concluding with Io and Asuka. maybe Trick and Sammy. The other one's kind of a throwaway. The John Cena announcement's going to be nothing. I completely agree. I think the ceiling of this show is like a 91. I think that's the best it could possibly be given the circumstances. So I'm at an 88 B+. What's your numerical grade? But I'm firmly
I
in
was
a B+.
right at an
Same.
I was right at an 88 too. Now, if John Cena comes out and announces that he's pregnant and we killed Bin Laden again, and Fatu wins the title, and we got some stuff happening, that could bump it.
Hey, if he announces WrestleMania 44 in Miami or Orlando or Tampa, somewhere near me, maybe that hits it as well. But I don't think that's going to happen either. So,
ooh, could that be the announcement next year's WrestleMania?
Like London and/or a split site, first time ever, breaking news.
Well, we've guessed Nashville.
We have.
I mean, it'd be weird to announce that in front of the Tampa crowd.
But he's not. But the way he termed it, don't forget, it was like something great for superstars and fans, exchanging the experience of WWE. It was much more broad than that.
It's probably going to be Club WWE, but as I think about it, not out of the.
It's plausible. He's done it before. There's no question about it. All right, that wraps up this edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. I somehow forgot to mention this all episode. That is on me. We will be back Saturday night as soon as WWE Backlash goes off the air with a WWE Backlash instant analysis podcast. That makes this a 3-episode week. If you're a first-time listener, make sure you hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening. We would greatly appreciate that. On the way out, I already told you to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast. In addition to voting in those polls, you get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show, and you can join our Slack channel with the link in our bio. Don't forget, here at Getting Over,
It's all about the fire.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. And please remember,
I happen to love the number 5.
Hope you do as well. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You will get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, exclusive news analysis posts every week. Support us as we continue supporting you. buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. We will be back on Thursday talking the Hulk Hogan docuseries. We'll decide the Hey Now Championship and set that on a course forward. We'll break down the latest across NXT and AEW. And then on Saturday, we will have your 2026 WWE Backlash instant analysis. For Vintage Chris Vanini, this is the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.